Well, there we go. I was muted there. What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday night to you all. Hope you're doing well. Little very 80s intro there. You gotta love that John Harrison score for Day of the Dead. But I'm sure somewhere, John Vulo's ears are bleeding after that little intro there. But hopefully he's still oral health, not oral health, oral health. But how's everybody doing out there? Everybody doing good? What's going on in the world right now? We got fires out on the West Coast. Now we are buried under about a foot of snow and ice right now in southern Indiana, so that's fun. So yeah, we've just been kind of snowed in and dealing with that bullshit all week. So wish me luck. I'm not a big fan of the snow, I'll tell you that. As much as I talk about wanting to move to Pittsburgh, I know they get a lot more snow than we do, and I don't know. I can deal with it. I can deal with it for that. But how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Got some people in the chat. Got some people in the chat. Down is up is in the house. What's down? What's up? Down is up. There we go. I like that. Looking forward to this. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this too. I think I'm going to try to do one of these history of like last January, I did the history of Dawn of the Dead on home video. That was really fun. And then I realized here recently, I was like, man, it's been a long time since I've done one of those. So I was like, Day of the Dead would be a perfect one. It's the 40th anniversary of Day of the Dead this year. And we talked about Day of the Dead last week on the roundtable. Which, speaking of the roundtable, if you guys haven't checked that out, give that a watch. Last week's Romero fan roundtable, a lot of fun, a lot of good conversation there. Thanks again, Matt, John, Synth, and Ed for coming on. Again, another 4-hour show. It just flew by. Like 4 hours was up, and I was like, holy shit, like we've been doing this 4 hours. Like we should probably wrap this sucker up and let you guys go to bed. But appreciate you guys hanging out with me and spending your Saturday night with me last weekend. So yeah, if you guys haven't listened to that, check it out. We definitely touched on Day, we touched on Dawn, we touched on a little bit of everything in that one. So but yeah, good to see you. It's a new name, unless you're somebody that has been on here before under a different name, but I would remember Down is Up as a name. But I appreciate it. Speaking of the man himself, what's up, Matt? Matt Landrum in the house. Good evening. Got Don's down. I'm gonna call you Dawn is Up. How about that? Down is Up, saying what's up, all. Synthetics in the house. What's up, man? John Harrison cover. Yeah, you gotta love it. Gotta love the John Harrison cover. I don't care what John Bulow says. You gotta love it. Bonnie Bailey, what's up, Bonnie? Good to see you as always. Since saying, dare I say, this is better than the original. What do you guys think? That is actually a cover. I'll put the link down in the description after the fact. I don't know why I didn't do that before, but it's a YouTube channel here on YouTube. It's called like Time 1019 Vision or something like that. He does a ton of like really badass Dawn of the Dead covers. I think he does a Creep Show cover or a Day of the Dead cover. There's like 3 different Day of the Dead covers on there. Really good stuff, and the graphics and stuff that he puts together. I mean, it's a really cool channel. I don't think a lot of people have really heard of it, but I'll put the link down in the bottom. If you guys want to check it out, because he's got a lot of really cool shit on there. A lot of stuff that I've used before. So shout out to whoever the hell that is. Time. I think it's Time 1019 Vision is the name of the channel. I don't know. But very, very cool. Matt saying, I don't care what anyone says, the Day soundtrack rips. I agree. I love that soundtrack. I don't like John last week. We had that conversation. And if you guys want to check that out, I cut it into a little video clip earlier this week. Just talking about the differences between Dawn soundtrack and the Day soundtrack. And I love both. Don't get me wrong, but as a cohesive score, it's hard to beat Day of the Dead for me. Like that, like John Harrison, the shit that he did for Creep Show and Day of the Dead is unrivaled, dare I say. And just like a back-to-back sequence, and even he did the score for Effects, which I don't know if you guys have seen Effects, but he's in Effects. He's one of the stars of Effects, but he also did the score because Effects, I think, they had a budget of maybe $50,000 or something like that. A very low budget film, but it has John Harrison, Joe Pilato, an early Joe Pilato performance, an early Tom Savini performance. Like it's right around the time that they had finished filming Dawn of the Dead, but John Harrison does the score for that too, and you can hear kind of the seeds being planted for like what he was going to do with Creep Show and Day of the Dead going forward. So if you haven't checked out Effects, I would highly recommend giving that one a watch. Oh, Matt's saying he may agree with Synth. All right. Well, yeah, definitely check out that channel. Like I said, I'll put the description down below. But I think if you type in like Time 1019 Vision, I think you can find that channel, and he's got all kinds of really good stuff up there. Um, John will be okay. There you go. Speaking of the man himself, there he is. John Vulo, what's up, man? I was actually thinking how goddamn goofy it sounds. There you go. The war continues to rage. John Harrison versus, I guess it'd be a whole slew of different artists for the Dawn soundtrack, but Goblin the main score, and then all the library stuff after the fact. But good to see you, my man. Down is what's Mr. Zombie? I'm not sure. What is Mr. Zombie? Down is up. Let's see who else we got. Since any of the fires suck, luckily I'm going to Anaheim for NAMM and no fires there. Yeah, I was thinking. I mean, it's mostly like Los Angeles, Hollywood area. I've known a lot of big actors and celebrities have lost their homes. I know Mel Gibson just lost his home. There's like a whole slew of them. I can't think of it like just off the top of my head. Paris Hilton. I mean, God forbid, Paris Hilton. But but yeah, I mean, just outside of that, just the people that live in that area, not just the celebrities, but like I was watching. There's a channel here on YouTube called Channel 5 News, and they actually like go on the ground and do like real investigative work. I can't think of the name of the guy that does it. He's got the big fro and but it's interesting. He actually went and actually talked to like just the normal residents of that that were worried about whether or not they had insurance and shit. And it's just it blows your mind because I think State Farm. I think they said State Farm had just like within the last month or so canceled a whole lot of people's policies in that area. Which is mind blowing. But I mean, to me, don't get me started on insurance and the whole concept of insurance, car insurance, home insurance, all that bullshit. Like health insurance, don't get me started on that. Um, but yeah, just hearing those stories is really piss you off. But yeah, I'm glad you're doing all right, man. I'm glad you're okay. I think you're a little more north of where it's happening, so that's always good. But that's kind of one of those things you just gotta like in Indiana. Like our big thing is tornadoes, I guess. Kentucky, Indiana, like we're always on guard for a fucking tornado. Which I mean, right now we're in the middle of a blizzard, ice storm, all that. I mean, it's been pretty rough. It's been all week too. Um, but yeah, kind of out California. I mean, those wildfires and earthquakes. Um, Roundtable was a blast. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it definitely was. Like I said, that 4 hours flew by. It was like one of the fastest. Like I was looking, I was like, oh shit, we're at like 3.5 hours. I guess we should wrap this up. And then 4 hours hit, and I was like, oh man, like, but always cool, always cool. I mean, shit. I mean, Synth, when we were at Living Dead weekend, we stood out in the parking lot and just talked in the fucking parking lot for 3 hours. It's easy to do when you're when you kind of speak the same language, Steven Fernandez, what's up, man? Hey, man, happy stream. Happy Saturday to you, sir. Good to see you in here. Down is up saying, that's cool. My name is Jeff. My sister, oh, Lois. Okay, I remember Lois was here last week. I had to work. Well, tell Lois we said hello. And what's up to you, Jeff? Good to see you. Coincidence Control. What's up, man? That's a new name. Does anyone know where to read his Romero's Goosebump screenplay? Probably the archive. If you're ever in Pittsburgh and you want to visit the University of Pittsburgh George Romero archive, it's open for the public. Just you shoot him an email. The guy that kind of handles that, his name is Ben. Shoot him an email, let him know you want to visit, and he'll pick a time and a date, and you just show up, tell him what you want, and I was actually lucky enough to do that last October in 2023. Got to visit the archive, and I spent about 4 hours in there from just the time that I had, and I barely like scratched the surface on what it was the very, very, very tip of the iceberg on what I saw. And what I saw was just like mind blowing because I had to drive home from Pittsburgh all the way back here to Indiana that day after I left. And the whole drive home, like it went by in no time because the whole time I was driving, I was just sitting there thinking about what I just saw, like what I just read. And I was like, holy shit. But I guarantee you that it's in the archive. If all those screenplays, I mean, George wrote so much. The Goosebumps screenplay, just all that stuff he did in the 90s, I mean, that was the thing about George, is like he was always writing. Like there was just he has like hundreds of screenplays and stuff that were never made, that he would just write and say, okay, it's written. We'll see if we can get it in, and he would just move on to the next thing. And that was always George's thing. He did, and if you ever met George and you try to talk to him about like his older stuff, he would always kind of give that off of just like, oh, like I'm kind of focused on the what I'm working on now. I'm kind of focused on the now, which is the best way to be. Matt saying the cues are on point for Day. We've talked about Sarah's breakdown and how effective it was in that scene. Lots of emotion. I agree. That scene and the scene where Bub kind of has a breakdown, the first zombie breakdown in movie history. The first time I remember watching Day of the Dead, like I remember, I've talked about like I wasn't the biggest fan of Day of the Dead the first time I saw it, but the first time I saw that scene, like I was just kind of like, oh man, that's kind of sad. Like seeing a zombie breakdown like that. Like the music cue on that is perfect too. But that's the perfect like that's the thing about Howard Sherman's performance in that, is like he somehow makes you emotionally attached to the monster, kind of like Boris Karloff or something with Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster. I guess I don't want to be you know chastised by the Frankenstein fans out there. John saying the tune makes me think of an aquanetted haired girls chewing bubblegum, exercising in pink tube socks, smiling. Not a Romero film. Well, see, I love the 80s. I love 80s music. I grew up on 80s music. Like my parents, that's all they listened to growing up. So like I grew up on all that shit. I hated it at the time, like when I was a kid, because I was like, oh, why are we listening to this shit? Why can't we listen to the Backstreet Boys? That I want to listen to the Backstreet Boys, damn it. Because that was my thing back in the day when I was a kid. But my parents always wanted to listen to just 80s music, and that's where I listened to it, and that's where I kind of grew to learn. The older I got, the more I go back to it, like Paula Abdul and Blondie, like Rapture, Blondie in the 80s. Like that's a typical 80s song, and I don't know. I love 80s music, so maybe that lends itself to my appreciation of John Harrison's score for Day. Bonnie said, I graduated high school in 1985. The Day sound is very much of its time, so I'm a bit sentimental. There you go. Yeah, it's like smack dab right in the middle of the 80s. It's like Madonna and John Harrison, the quintessential sounds of the 80s. There you go. Down is Up's asking, what does everyone think about the new documentary on George? Well, it's funny you asked that. I actually just got around to finally watching Brandon Salisbury's new documentary, George A. Romero's Resident Evil, today. I bought it on Amazon. I didn't rent it because I knew I'm going to want to watch this a couple of times, if for nothing else, just kind of take it all in and kind of build an opinion on it. So I bought it on Amazon, watched it today, and I plan on doing like a full review of this. I'm gonna kind of give the short, abbreviated review. So I'm planning on doing like a full review video of it, probably the next few days, and give my full thoughts. But basically, my thoughts on the documentary, I fucking loved it. I thought it was pretty amazing. Like, I didn't know what to expect going in. I was like, a lot of the times when I see a Romero documentary, and there's a lot of good ones out there, but a lot of times when I watch something on Romero, it's like, oh, it's shit it's shit I've heard before. And not to say like, oh, I know everything, so what is there to teach me? It's like, that's not true at all. But a lot of people kind of come at it from the same angle. And so going into it, I really wasn't sure what to expect. But I absolutely loved it. I think it's fantastic. I think Brandon really did a hell of a job on this thing. It was depressing at the end. I'll say that. Like when the movie was over, I was kind of depressed because Brandon does a fantastic job. The last 15 minutes or so of the film is kind of talking about George's death and kind of getting stories from different people. I mean, there's interviews from Matt Blasey and Michael Felcher and George Demick and Jim Crut, Norman England. I mean, it's if you're a Romero fan, if you've been a Romero fan for a long time, these are names that everybody kind of knows, and just fans like us, but have contributed to Romero's legacy and all that. For years and years and years. I mean, a lot of what I know is due to guys like Blasey and Felcher and Larry and guys like that just have been doing it for so long and have found so much of this information out. And John's kind of is that guy now. Like John's finding out all this information. I'm just like, wow, that's pretty fucking awesome. Like I love having John on the show because I'm just like, I just want to listen. I'm just like, okay, tell me more. And So like watching this documentary, I mean, and I love Resident Evil. That I've talked about that before. That was kind of the thing that got me into the zombie genre, kind of introduced me to George Romero to begin with. So it was just two things that I love, passionate for, and really, played a major role in my life. And the way that Brandon kind of presents this documentary, the way he kind of puts it together, the first part is kind of setting the table, kind of telling you George's history and how he got to where he was, and the history of Resident Evil and how that game became what it was, and then how these two got together and how it kind of fell apart, didn't really work out the way that it should, and the way that George was kind of hoping that it would at the time. But I guess the two main points that I kind of left that the film kind of debating in my head were, um, one, if George was able to make his vision of the movie, which I'm inspired now. I want to go back, and because I have the Resident Evil screenplay, I just haven't read it in forever and ever. I'm inspired now to go back and reread that whole screenplay, and it's out there online if you guys want to look for it. I think you can just Google George Romero's Resident Evil screenplay, and you should be able to find it. Um, I want to go back and reread that, and the question would George have pulled it off at that time? Would it have been a success? Where would it have taken George's career going forward? That's always been a big what if in my mind, is like, what if George would have made this movie? Where would it have, how would it have blah, 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 blah. Where would it have taken his career? Um, so yeah, that it left me thinking that, as well as like, I don't know if I kind of contemplate like how if George's heart was truly in this project, or if it was more George trying to get ahead of it to try to take charge of something that he felt like was being taken from him. Because like the zombie genre, I mean, in the 80s, there were zombie films and stuff, but Resident Evil, when the game came out, was pretty, um, pretty upfront, saying, "Oh yeah, this is kind of an homage to Romero and all this stuff." And I felt like maybe George was kind of like, "Okay, well, this is my thing. Like, I want in on it. Like, I want to be a part of this." So I don't know if it was really a story that he was passionate about doing, but I think George wanted to be a part of it in some way, and as writer, director, whatnot. And even if he wasn't a writer, if he would just direct it, I think he would have been happy with that. But I think the way that they went all about that, and the story that they kind of tell in that documentary, when it has to do with the producers and the top guy at Constantine Films, was really interesting. I learned a lot. So I would say if you're a casual Romero fan, you'll like it, and if you're a hardcore Romero fan, you'll really like it. So I highly, highly recommend it. And I messaged Brandon today and told him how much I enjoyed it. I thought done a fantastic job, and it explains why he's already working on other things now. He's a lot of opportunities are opening up, and um, very, very proud of him. I think he did a fantastic job. And you can tell it was made by someone who loved George and was passionate about George. Like, you can always tell. Um, when somebody does something just because I think this is a profitable idea, or this is some, but you can tell like Brandon is a huge Romero fan, and it shows. It really does. Um, what's up, Brian? Brian Stahl's in the house. Got to get down there and check the archives. Yeah, you do, man. Like I said, just it's free to the public. It's open. It doesn't charge you anything. You just show up. Let them, or email them ahead of time. Let them know what you want to see. That you can kind of go through the whole list and say, okay, I want to look at that. They pull it out for you, and you just sit there and take it in. Like I said, I was there for about 4 hours, and I barely touched on everything that I wanted to see. So there's a lot. And yeah, you're right down the road, man. So yeah, take a Monday, or a Friday off or something like that, and hit them up and go down there and check it out. Highly recommended. Matt saying booked our place for June today. Awesome. Getting there a few days early this year, hoping to get into the archives if possible. Yeah, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Yeah, I don't know what my plan is for Living Dead weekend this year. I think the plan is I'm going to stay a little longer than normally. I think maybe a day extra. Do a few extra things that I haven't done down there yet, but it's still 6 months away, so I'm trying to pace myself on there, trying not to plan too far ahead. Since then, as a ecology, and botany nerd, having houses in any forest or plant community with millennia of fire ecology for natural health will never end well. Yeah, it's true, especially with some controlled burns. Yeah. What do you think about the conspiracy theories that they were, you know, it was the fucking drones. I knew those drones were up to no good, by God. Um, uh, Coincidence Control says that sounds incredible. Thank you for letting me know. I'll have to make the trip there one day. You absolutely should. And yeah, again, I say if you're a Romero fan, you've never made the trip to Pittsburgh. In general, you got to do it. And in June, Living Dead weekend is the perfect time to do it because you'll be in Pittsburgh at the mall, surrounded by a bunch of people, a bunch of crazy ass people that speak the same language you do, and it's a damn good time. Let me tell you. Uh, yeah, that's the best way to put it. It's Disneyland. That's the best way to put it. Coincidence Control says my favorite release of Day of the Dead is probably the Shout Blu-ray, but nothing beats watching Day of the Dead on good old VHS. Yeah, we'll get into that here in just a second. The VHS, unfortunately, I was planning on with the snow and the ice and shit. It didn't get here in time, but I did purchase a version of Day of the Dead that I've been wanting for a while. And then when I decided to do the stream, I was like, "Oh, now's the time. I'm gonna go ahead and buy this sucker because Um, but unfortunately, it didn't come in time, so we'll just have to look at pictures. But I have a nice little stack of shit here we can get into and reminisce about and talk about. So. Um, Matt saying I love synth-driven '80s music. Grew up on it. Might be why I like Day soundtrack so much too. Yeah, yeah. I like my dad. I mean, that's the type of music that I like. Me and Matt kind of share music and stuff uh, pretty often that we're listening to. But like I grew up, like my dad was a huge Depeche Mode fan and Kraftwerk and shit like that. So I grew up listening to that all the time, and I didn't get it at the time. But then when I hit puberty and listened to music for the masses for the first time, like that was my first. Like my dad, when I got my first car. Uh, it was a '97 Dodge Stratus, and it had a tape deck in it. It didn't have a CD player or anything in it. Had the tape deck in it, and I didn't have any tapes. I mean, this was like 2005, I guess, when I got my first car. My dad was like, "Well, here's two tapes from back in the day. Here, you can have them, listen to them, whatnot." Like, all right, one's Motley Crue's greatest hits. I was like, all right, I can dig that because I was into metal and shit at the time. So I was like, I guess I can listen to Motley Crue. And then the other one was Depeche Mode, music for the masses. And I was like, I'll try it. And I put that fucker in. It didn't leave my tape deck for months. Like it was just on repeat all the time. Like if me and my friends were going anywhere, it was just like a constant fucking loop. Um, so yeah, that's where my weird ass taste in music comes from. Is my dad, and we were like, I actually got to take my dad to a Depeche Mode concert last year. He'd always wanted to go, never been to one. I got him tickets for his birthday, I think. Or no, actually, never mind. He got them for me. He got me tickets for Depeche Mode. I took my dad to see Pink Floyd, or not Pink Floyd, but Roger Waters a few years back. I get those mixed up. Me and my dad had been to some pretty cool shows, but anywho. Harrison only cuts over Sputsy parts any day. Yeah, that's kind of the part. That's probably the part of the soundtrack that I can do without is the Sputsy stuff. But Brian says got to defend Day's score, specifically Heroes Escape. Well, buddy Paul Farver, go check out his YouTube channel. Paul Synth / Drums, I think is what it's called. He just dropped a drum cover of that today, actually, and he's got a pretty badass Anchor Bay T-shirt on that I pointed. I was like, I kind of want one of those now. So yeah, check that out if you're a big fan of that song. Paul's a great musician. John saying I like the Resident Evil doc, and if you know me, there was one thing that I took major umbrage with. I thought of that immediately when it came up. I will say that I thought of that immediately when it came up, and I know what you're talking about, and it has to do with John Russo and yeah, that part of the doc it came up, and I was like, I don't know. I think that's gonna ruffle a few feathers, um. But yeah, that's pretty funny that you say that because that's immediately my first thought when I forget who said it, but I think it was I think it was Ben actually, the dude from the archive when they were interviewing him. I think he mentioned it, and I remember thinking like, oh yeah, I don't think John's gonna like that part. Matt say not only was it a love letter to a film that was never made, it was a beautiful love letter to George. I fully agree. I was incredibly touched by George Dimick's stories, especially. I was too. I had never met George. I've never talked to George. I'm going to now. Living Dead weekend this year because I'm pretty sure he'll be there for Day's 40th anniversary. He was a part of Day, and I've seen him at Living Dead weekend before. I've seen him outside of the DoubleTree. He's usually outside the DoubleTree, hanging out and talking with people, but just never had the opportunity to really talk to him. I think I'm gonna chat him up a little bit this year because he was very very nice guy and probably has some really really interesting, really cool Romero stories. Um, but yeah, fully disagree or fully agree with that. Um, but yeah, the ending of that when he breaks down, when hearing Slippy for all you Dead Pit fans out there, hearing Felcher talk about George and the last time telling the story last time he talked to George is heartbreaking too. Like and hearing Blasey cry, yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, when that movie was over, like I loved it, but man, when that movie was over, I was fucking bummed. I'll say that I was like, man, I was fucking bummed. But I think he does a fantastic job of showing how much George not only means to just film and horror history and all that stuff, but what he meant to a community of fans. I mean, I fucking hell, like I do a YouTube channel and I spend most of my time thinking about, working on, doing videos, coming up with content just about George. And like, I don't know any other, like, there's a fucking convention every year dedicated to one man pretty much. Like every now and then they'll bring in some outside people, but for the most part, it's a convention for fans of one filmmaker. I don't see very many Cronenberg film festivals. I don't see many James Cameron film festivals or conventions out there, not film festivals, but as far as I know, George is the only one that I know, and I think Brandon does a great job of kind of showing at the end of that film there, like why, like what the impact that he had, just not even just his movies, but the people that actually met George and talked to George and kind of saw like, wow, this is like one of the sweetest, nicest, funniest guys. Um, and I think that kind of will kind of live on. I think that's George's legacy more so than his films is like what a guy he was. And George Dimick's story was kind of the perfect epitome of that. If George just being like, hey, how about you just come down, spend the afternoon with me, and bring your questions, and I'll answer them all, and we'll just hang out. It's like what? Like yeah, George would do that type of shit back in the day. Um, Down is up saying is the narration in that documentary what George script would be. Is the narration in that documentary what George's script? No, I think the narration was kind of based off the game. It sounded like I think it may have been the guy that did the voiceover for the game. I'd have to ask Brandon about that, but yeah, there's bits and pieces of what George's script was in the documentary, and I think some of the stuff that because there's some parts of the documentary that were shot like a movie to kind of show like maybe some of that was what George's vision of would look like, the idea of what his vision of the mansion would be and stuff like that. And they kind of get into what the look of the tyrant in the movie that George wanted to make. You kind of see some sketches of that. You're kind of like, man, I would have loved to have seen that, but instead we got whatever the fuck we got, that fucking Paul W.S. Anderson shit. There's the man himself. And get him up here. Rick, the North Going Llama. What's up, man? Hello, ladies and gents, he says. Good to see you, my man. And always good to say your name. I'll say that. Yeah, I fully agree with this 2 cents. Resident Evil game had a great score, and they used a little bit of that music in the documentary too. I could tell. I don't know if it was from the actual game, but I think it's music maybe inspired by it. But yeah, the music from Resident Evil is the music from Resident Evils 1, 2, and 3 are kind of ingrained into my brain after all these years. Down is upset. Who did those guys think they are in firing George? Yeah, I mean, you got to think this was the 90s, the late 90s. I mean, I can get off on a tangent about this, about, the way George was treated in the 90s by, Hollywood and studio systems and shit like that. But yeah, at that point in his career, I mean, Resident Evil would kind of been his comeback. It would have been his launching point. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, was it really a film that Romero was, super passionate about making, or was it George's saying, "Hey, this is my opportunity to kind of get back in the fight," type of thing. But yeah, the George was treated horribly in the '90s. Just one thing after another, which led to, I mean, Bruiser, which is George's angriest movie for sure. It's just George saying, "Fuck all this! Like, I'm going back. I'm going to Canada, and I'm making a little movie about, about me saying fuck you to everybody, basically." Um, Matt saying apparently Brandon has received some backlash from the doc. Not really sure why. He worked incredibly hard on it, and I think he did amazing. Who's sending him backlash? Backlash from what? Um, like what kind of backlash? Is it just like people saying that, oh, that's not, the information's not correct, or the documentary wasn't well made? Because I mean that's the big thing to me. I thought it was really well made, a really well made documentary. Now some of the information I can't really say because a lot of that stuff I didn't even know, especially when it come to the development of the game and a lot of the stuff that went on behind the scenes there between George um and Constantine. What kind of backlash is he getting for that? Because I think that's kind of unwarranted, in my opinion. Blake Allen, what's up, Blake? Did anyone consider that in the novel that Sparrow was Christine Forrest? I've considered that. I've thought that. I've asked Christine that personally, and she said no. She doesn't know who it is. She doesn't know. She doesn't recall meeting anybody named Susanna Sparrow. I was like, all right, but I don't think it would have been Christine anyway. But I mean, it's just weird. Susanna Sparrow's only 2 credits are Dawn and Martin, so you know, there's no other information on her out there. But no, I've asked Christine that personally. That was one of the questions I asked. I was like, do you recall who Susanna Sparrow was? And she was like, no, I've never heard that. No, I had to tell her that she was a co-author. She was just like, I didn't know that. That's interesting. But like I said, it's a good thought. I thought of it. Yeah, the goddamn adrenochromes or adrenodrones. There we go, adrenochromes. Down is up. Is there a hotel close to the convention center since the Radisson's closed? Yeah, there's a lot of hotels around that area in Monroeville. I wouldn't recommend staying at the Red Roof out of all of them, but I think the rest are okay. But the Red Roof, I mean, it's a Red Roof Inn. We'll just say that. Since then, it was the MTG Jewish space lasers again starting fires. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that from some reliable sources. Brian says, when I was a kid, I snuck a VHS copy of Day out of my Mall's FYE. You badass. It had the Day trailer connecting Night and Dawn, which blew my mind. My preteen brain didn't know it was the same director. Yeah. I can't say I've ever stolen anything out of my Mall's FYE, but I've bought a few things. I can't remember where I bought my first copy of Day of the Dead. I was thinking about that today. I was like, I don't remember where the hell I got that. Because the first copy that I had was a VHS copy. It was the Video Treasures Anchor Bay VHS. And that was my first time owning Day. And I don't remember where the hell I got it. It was probably at an FYE or something like that. Yeah, Music for the Masses is incredible. Violator did it for me, though. Yeah, I love Violator too. I mean, that was that's Depeche Mode's sweet spot. Black Celebration, Music for the Masses, Violator, and then Dave Gahan, hit the smack, and then the '90s. There's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff, but like the pre Black Celebration, like that's my dad's era. My dad's all about like Some Great Reward and the real like early '80s shit. But yeah, that Music for the Masses is one of my all-time favorite albums. Rick says, given the long history of George Romero's Night of the Living Dead universe, does anyone think the universe has expanded as far as it can and there is not much else others can do to take up the torch? Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that way just because it's, George is no longer here to kind of keep the story going, but I mean, they're going to. I mean, they're going to Twilight of the Dead coming up, and Queens of the Dead, which is directed by George's daughter Tina, which is good luck. I hope it's good. I mean, Brad Anderson is a very capable filmmaker. I'm looking forward to see what he does with it. But yeah, I think at a point, I think even George kind of knew that when he went back to the first night in Diary. He was like, after Land, it was like, where else do I go with this? Like, if they keep getting smarter, like there's only so far they can evolve before they just become human again, and then it's just like, well, what's which is kind of an interesting concept. I guess you could do something with if the zombies were human level intelligence, and then it's just what are we battling about now? Why aren't we just I don't know, but yeah, I think the zombie genre in general is pretty fucking played out, and if you want my honest opinion, um, there's not. I haven't seen a whole lot of good zombie stuff in the last decade at least. Um, no, I do still need to see the Battery. I've heard really good things about the Battery from Grande. Um, some people in the chat, like I've heard really good things about the Battery from quite a few people, and I still haven't gotten around to watching it yet. So that's one I do need to check out. But I think for the most part, though, I mean, I think zombies have just been done to death, and until somebody comes at it from a different angle, um, and I'm not talking about like running zombies or flying zombies or anything like that, but just a different way to tell the story. Like I thought the movie Maggie with Schwarzenegger, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was good. People shit on that movie because it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger in a serious role in a zombie film. Like who wants to watch that? But I thought it was pretty good. It's been a while since I've seen it. I watched it when it first came out, but I remember liking it. I thought it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But I'm a Schwarzenegger mark anyway, so. Um, Down is Upset, all the coming attractions for Day of the Dead are great, especially the one with the zombie in the movie theater. Yeah, I thought that was kind of especially like the movie that it's promoting is it's I don't know, it didn't quite fit, um, but it is an iconic like trailer for Day of the Dead for sure. Since then, 80s new wave and synth pop is great, but one of the most important works was Wendy Carlos. Yes, switched on Bach, an amazing mood modular synth demo for the ages. Yeah, Wendy Carlo, of course, scored a. I think she pretty much scored. When did she start working with Kubrick? Because that's what I mainly know her from is the stuff that she did with Kubrick. Um, and yeah, some of that stuff is amazing. I got the Clockwork Orange soundtrack on vinyl. Um, even the Shining soundtrack was amazing. Um, yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Down is up again with Russo. Does he really think that he was responsible for everything George did? I don't know if, like I said, you can go back and watch last week's stream. Me and John kind of had a little bit back and forth, and John is very knowledgeable and very passionate about this subject. So yeah, check out that conversation. We'll just say that. But yeah, I respect John Russo. I think Russo has a place in Nights in the history of Night of the Living Dead, has a place in independent filmmaking. I mean, like I said, the guy's just made a shitload of stuff, and somehow one way or another got it made. Against all odds. So I got a lot of respect for John Russo. But yeah, there is an aspect of where Russo, I don't know, kind of maybe takes a little bit more credit than he should sometimes. I feel like, but. Um, but who's to really know? Who's to say? Matt saying, yeah, seeing Dimmick weep over George's passing fucking got me. Yeah, that was tough. Um, I was like, yeah, that story that Slippy told bummed me out. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the ending of the documentary is pretty fucking depressing. And not about like I like depressing shit when it's done right, and I thought it was done right. If you're a Romero fan and you don't come away from that movie feeling bummed out, then I don't know, I don't know what to tell you. Johnson, yes, I love Resident Evil 2 soundtrack. When I got the remake recently, I had to buy the higher tier one because I couldn't play without the original music. Oh yeah, they keep doing those remakes of the Resident Evil games too. I can't imagine Resident Evil without those scores. It's been a while since I played Resident Evil, any of the Resident Evil games. I think the last one that I played was 5. I think that was the last time that I played a Resident Evil game. But man, I'll still go back to this day and play the first 3 just to run through. Even like the shittier ones, like Survivor. I don't know if you guys remember the first person Resident Evil Survivor game. Even that one, like the first time I rented that, I ran through it and beat it in like the first night that I had it, and I was like, wow, okay. Rick saying, wasn't George Romero responsible for most of the writing of the screenplay for all of his Dead films? Yeah, I mean, George wrote the screenplay for all of them, although John Russo is technically co-writer on Night of the Living Dead. But as Vula was saying last week, I mean, it's mostly George's vision that you see. But like I said, I fully believe that Russo was the one that came up with the idea to make them flesh eaters. So if he wants to take credit for that, I'm totally for that. Since then, George was to horror and independent cinema what Roddenberry was to sci-fi. He also has conventions in his honor. There you go. Good analogy there. Good analogy. Massan didn't get a lot of detail about it. He just mentioned it to me when I reached out to him about the doc. Interesting. Apparently, some folks have ripped into him and the project. Don't want to speak for him. Well, I like I said, I messaged Brandon earlier today, told him how much I enjoyed it, and I think we're going to try to get him on the channel here within the coming weeks. If we're working on it, nothing's set in stone yet, but I'd love to get him on the channel and talk to him about the documentary, and we'll touch on it then, I guess, and he can speak for himself and tell what he wants to tell, and if he wants to tell people to go fuck themselves, he's more than welcome to come on here and tell people to go fuck themselves. And I will back him up on that, because if you're giving him shit for this documentary, then yeah, you can go fuck yourself. Since then, I'm probably one of the few that bought the day score on vinyl before hearing it. Fangoria was selling it before the movie came out. Odd hearing the music in and out of context. Yeah, that may have been. I think the first time I bought the day score, it was the CD. It was like the reissue CD from the late 90s, I want to think. Sorry, guys. Let me try to catch up on this chat, and then we'll get into the history of Day of the Dead on home video in the U.S. I'm sticking to the U.S. because if I were trying to go around the world, like with Dawn, if I tried to go around the world and do all the releases, then we'd be here for, till next Wednesday. So, John said, I read a review where the reviewer claimed that Brandon didn't explain how the project fell apart, which it clearly did. Constantine didn't want Romero horror movie. Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Basically, the basic concept is like the fucking studio didn't want a gory horror film. Instead, they wanted, an action film, I guess, more of a sci-fi action film, which from what I've heard, I don't think they said that in the documentary, but from the research that I've done, some of the videos that I've watched on it, the version that they went with, Paul W.S. Anderson's script wasn't even a script for Resident Evil. But I think they do kind of mention that in the documentary, that it was called like The Undead or something like that. But it really had nothing to fucking do with Resident Evil. But I guess that's what the studio wanted. And those movies, they ended up making like 7 of those movies, and they made like $1 billion or whatever the hell. So I guess it worked out best for them. But and in my opinion, I think it kind of worked out best for George too. Because if he'd have done Resident Evil, we wouldn't have gotten Bruiser, which I'm sure Matt would have been okay with. But I love Bruiser, and I think it's important to George's filmography. We'll just say that. John said about an action movie, so why did they get the rights to a horror game? Also, the reviewer called The Crazies a zombie film. Good grief. Yeah, I mean, well, that'll tell you. Which, I mean, The Crazies is kind of like a prequel to a zombie film, I guess, is kind of the way I see it. But... is this an IMDb review? I think I read that too. I haven't been on IMDb. I was going to leave a review on IMDb for him, kind of putting the movie over, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, when you make a piece of art, like I'm, when you make something and you put it out there, I mean, you're open to scrutiny, and some people are going to like it and some people aren't, and that's okay. Like, not everybody's going to like everything you do. And that's okay. Like, you just got to be reserved to that. And if you try to spend your time making everybody happy and trying to like, oh, well, I gotta, everybody's got to like what I'm doing. Like, they're not. Like, no, not everybody likes what I'm doing here on YouTube. I mean, there's people, that I probably see this and are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, why is he on here babbling about fucking 40-year-old movies? Like, he's, who cares? Nobody's gonna, it's fine. Like, people aren't gonna like everything, and I think the best art, the best stuff out there is stuff that people are split on. Some people are gonna love, some people are gonna hate, and that's totally fine. I think that's the best way to go about it. It's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I hear people all the time, it's the greatest horror movie ever made, and there's other half of people say it's the biggest piece of shit ever made. And it's like, I grew up hearing that. Like, I'd hear somebody say, but when I was a kid, like, the adults would say, like, oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the scariest movies ever. And it's like, oh, that was the stupidest movie ever. And it's like back and forth. But then, it's a fucking masterpiece. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. I think if you're doing something that everybody loves, it's probably not worth much. Because I there's a lot of movies that come out now where people are just like, oh, it's the greatest thing, and I love it, and I watch it, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't do it for me. But then you get something like, Halloween Ends or something like that, where people are just split on there. It's like it's either brilliant or it's the biggest piece of shit they saw. Like, that's the stuff I'm interested in, because I'm like, oh, what's so divisive about this movie? Like, that interests me. The shit that everybody loves is just like, oh, well, if everybody loves it, then, I guess that's the hipster in me, I guess. I don't know. Well, if everybody loves it, fuck it. I'm not interested. Anyway, so the battery is worth watching. Some good parts. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna watch it at some point. But it's just I just don't have a lot of time to watch hardly anything. Like today, I was able to, so I was able to sit like my fiance took daughter out. They went shopping and stuff, so I had the house to myself for a couple of hours. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch this Resident Evil documentary. So it's like 2 hours that I had to kind of do that. When I'm not doing that, I'm either doing dad things or I'm up here working on stuff for the channel. So but what can you do? Sorry guys, I'm behind on these comments, trying to catch up here. I'm gonna run through these real quick, lightning round on the comments here, and then we'll get into the main, because we're almost an hour into this thing and I'm just sitting here babbling, going through comments. But I love doing this. You guys know I love fucking chopping it up with you guys. Coincidence Control says, I seem to recall Romero once saying he didn't want anyone adapting his unproduced screenplays. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard that, but I would not be surprised. Yeah, that's interesting. Rick saying, I saw both Diary and Survival of the Dead Afterthoughts. Unfortunately, cannot say I felt it was as good as the Foundation works of the Dead series. Yeah, I agree with that. But still, I think those movies are not bad. I mean, compared to a lot of the shit that had similar budgets and all that around that time, like, come on, the reason those movies get so much shit, I swear, is just because George's name is on it. And when George is on it, you're expecting a certain level of quality, and but it was just a different time. If you would have given George Romero $5 million to make a movie in 1977, fucking forget about it. Like, it'd have been. I mean, think about what he did with Dawn of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead had a budget of 600,000, I think was the real number that Rubenstein gives. It was like, it was about 600,000. So yeah, imagine if he would have had that budget that he had for Diary, But it's a different industry now. John said, I don't think so. It was an article that Google on my phone recommended. Okay, I don't remember. I don't remember what that was about. Down is Up says, wow, a new zombie film from George's daughter. Too cool. Really hope it's good. I mean, hey, I'll watch it. I'll support it. I'll check it out. My expectations aren't the highest. I'll say that, but maybe it'll be fun if nothing else. It can't be worse than Festival of the Living Dead. It cannot be worse than that. Yeah, there's no way. I don't even want to speak its name. Coincidence Control says, is that bub in the background with shades on? Yeah, that's my bub. My bub mask, and the shades are the 3D glasses that I got from when I went to see Dawn of the Dead in 3D. So I just threw them on there because, so I got it on like one of those like styrofoam heads, and it's got the eyes are cut out. So when the shades are not on, it's just got like these blank white eyes. And when my daughter comes up here and she sees it, it freaks her the fuck out. She does not like looking at that mask. Like, she doesn't mind bub, like the mask itself. Like, if the glasses are on, she's cool with it. She's just like, hey, bub, But like when the glasses come off and it's just those like blank white eyes, she's like, that's too scary. I don't want to look at that. So I keep the glasses on for her. Since says, yeah, Carlos, Clockwork Orange, Shining, Tron, etc. Even Peter and the Wolf album with Weird Al. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Brian says, I'd recommend Blood Quantum as a close Romero-esque zombie flick. Okay. Blood Quantum. What year did that come out? I don't think I've heard of that. I remember Quantum Leap used to come on after Raw back in the day. Blake saying we should promote Martin even more now. People forget his uncle called him Nosferatu. Yeah. Every time I say Nosferatu, like I immediately think of Kuda. Nosferatu. Since then, Resident Evil games with the horrible acting were great too. The remakes changed certain bits due to publisher self-awareness. Yeah, well, they kind of get into that in the documentary too, about like why the voiceover work and shit in the original Resident Evil was pretty bad. That's interesting. Matt saying there's a terrible review on IMDb that seems pretty pointed. I completely disagree. Not trying to highlight any negativity, but that could be part of it. That's interesting. I mean, you're gonna have fucking people out there that are just haters that are gonna shit on your shit no matter what. But yeah, comes with the territory. Rick saying when it comes to George Romero dead films, says Mr. Tom Savini working in all of his dead films since Dawn of the Dead 78. Savini all the way up. Well, I mean, he had a small cameo in Land, but that was kind of the last thing that Savini. Well, he has a cameo in Diary too, a voiceover cameo. But in terms of effects work, um, Day was the last one that he worked on. Yep, always got to make time for zombie shopping, and that's true. It's either that or fucking Child's Play, and I'm pretty Child's Played out at this point, I gotta say. Uh, Rick saying, the Netflix series Black Summer about zombie apocalypse. I felt it was very well done in comparison to the Walking Dead series, given the characters and action and drama involved. Real raw. Okay, I never heard of that either. A lot of Netflix stuff I don't really keep up with. I'm rarely ever on Netflix or any kind of streaming platform. To be honest with you, if I'm not doing stuff on my computer, I'm either watching shit on YouTube or I'm watching a movie. Like I'm very rarely on the streaming sites. Every now and then, if like I'm looking for something specific, I'll go to Amazon Prime, like Brandon's Doc. But outside of that, like I don't stream very often at all. There's just not a lot. I don't know. It's not a lot appeals to me these days, I guess. But okay, let's get into the main meat of the matter. Let's talk about the history of Day of the Dead on home video in the US. I'll put that little caveat in there because, like I said, if I was going around the world on this stuff, like especially with Dawn, I had to stick to US with Dawn because when I did the Dawn of the Dead one, I mean, we would have been here, for a week going through all the releases around the world. So we're going to be talking about Day of the Dead physical media releases in the US. And get it up here. So yeah, so some of the VHS. So this first release here, Day of the Dead, comes out in 85. It gets its first. Let me get my notes here so I don't fuck anything up, or I'll be getting some bad reviews and people telling me I'm a dumb shit. Day of the Dead gets its first physical release on VHS in 1986 from Home or Media Home Entertainment, and there it is. That's what the box looks like. And this is the one that I do not own, which is why I'm showing you the picture of it. This is the one I do not own, but I really have been wanting to get for quite a while. And just haven't. And then I decided, well, I'm going to do this stream. It's time to buy it. I went on eBay, found one for a decent price, bought it. I think I've got it like back at Christmas is when I ordered it, and it still hasn't come in yet. Like I said, I know the weather's been shitty here for the past week, so it's probably backed things up. But yeah, this is the one, Media VHS release, Media Home Entertainment, 1986. This is the version that I first saw as a kid. Just this cover, this artwork here. I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again for the new audience members. But the first time that I saw anything to do with Romero, zombies, anything, when I was a real little kid, like I was probably 3-4 years old, maybe something like that, like real little. Like I remember there was the little mom and pop video store on the corner of this big building. The main store in this building was called Rex, and it was a home appliance store, a giant home appliance store, locally owned. And they sold TVs, VCR, stuff like that. So naturally, next to it, there's a little mom and pop video store. So when you buy your brand new VCR, you can go next door and you can rent you some movies for the night. So my parents would take me there, and I would always go in the very back. I remember it so fucking like it was yesterday. Very back of the store in the corner was the kids section, and I would go and I'd rent a Mickey Mouse movie or a Disney movie or something like that. Like I said, I was like 3, 4 at the time, something like that. But for some reason, one night I go and pick out my movie. I want to watch this, and my dad's up there paying for it. And for some reason, I decide I'm going to wander off and venture into the horror section of the store. And for some reason, when I came across this cover, the shot of Bub there, it freaked me the fuck out. It scared the absolute shit out of me. I remember it wasn't a nightmare. I remember when I was a kid, sleeping and having this dream where I could hear the footsteps. Like it was like on gravel or snow or something. That sound where it's like that crunching sound, footsteps. And I remember looking up and seeing that face coming at me. And it was just clear as day. It was like it was really happening. So this is the movie that traumatized me as a kid. This cover is what traumatized me as a kid. So I've always wanted to own. I don't own this cover. I would love to own the poster, the video store poster for it. Those go for some pretty good money. Um, but yeah, this is the one that fucked me up as a kid. And I don't know why. I think it was just the idea there's this monster face staring at you right on the cover. With the, you see the zombies and shit in the background there. Um, I don't know, but I have a sentimental place in my heart for this one. But yeah, this is from Media Home Entertainment, 1986. The VHS come out, and this is post beta. I don't think they were doing beta tapes at this point. I think it was all VHS at this point. The VHS had won the war, I guess, what if you want to call it a war. Let me full screen it here. Maybe see it a little better. Get my face out of there, but yeah, VHS had won the war at this point, and for me, to this day, when I look at like old VHS and videotapes and stuff like that, media is kind of a stamp of like quality to me. I don't know why, but like I just know that media they put out a lot of my favorite stuff back in the day. Um, I know they did the Day of the Dead. They did Night Riders. I think I have that one here. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know if you guys full screen here. So, but yeah, media did the Night Riders release. They put out uh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think, Halloween. I just know their media home entertainment did a lot of horror releases back in the day, and a lot of the best stuff. So when I see that logo and I see media entertainment, to me it feels like kind of which it wasn't technically a boutique label is what we know as a boutique label now. It wasn't technically a boutique label back in the day, but to me it kind of is, because it's kind of like now when I see like Second Sight or Arrow Video on something, like I know it's going to be quality. And it has nothing to do, like back in the day we're talking about VHS, nobody gave a shit what the transfer looked like. Nobody gave a shit like, oh, transfer from the original negative. It was going to be a test, and it just was what it was. Um, let's see here. Sorry. All right, am I back? Am I back? Am I good? What the fuck happened? I'm here rolling along. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm we can go to that. Okay, I think we're good now. I think I'm here. But yeah, so like media entertainment to me is kind of like the stamp of approval for like the OG VHS tape releases. Um, which, like I said, I wouldn't categorize it technically as a boutique label because it was kind of a mainstream thing. But like I said, it's kind of the stamp of like quality. And pull this back up here. So yeah, so when Day of the Dead first came out in '86, this was the version to get. This was the version to have. Um, what do you guys think of the chat? Are you guys? Am I still here? Am I still on the air? um, Down is up saying I love that cover art. Yeah, I do too. Like I said, I have a special place in my heart for that one. Since then, yeah, that was the rental box we had the video store I worked at in high school. Yeah, I think a lot of, if you went and rented this at a mom and pop shop, this was probably the version that you were renting, because this was the version, because you got to think at this time like they were just kind of, buying when they were the first releases of everything. So you got the Thorny MI release of Dawn, you had the media release of Day. So that's what I grew up with. Those where I rented those movies for the first time, was like in these small, like All American Video or Star Video. Like I remember these places back in my hometown. So they had these tapes from when they first came out. So they were like faded and worn, and you put them in your VCR, and they had just a smell to them because they were, however old, 20 years old at that point. So you pop it in your VCR and it looks like shit, but it worked. Like it we didn't bother us back in the day. Um, down is up. Does anyone know if there's a poster for that? There is the original video store poster. I've seen it on eBay, but they go for pretty good money. I think though I saw one I saw recently was about $175. I think. Um, which I would love to have. I would honestly, I don't have an original day one sheet, but I would love to have one. That's on my list of things to buy one day. But I would honestly rather have the video store poster, um, that has this image and shit on it. So I think if I buy a Day of the Dead, if I spend some big money on a Day of the Dead poster soon, I think it's going to be the video store poster of this cover for sure. Um, Media was great. They also put out Halloween. There you go. 240 lines of resolution transfer wasn't an issue. Yeah, for sure. Um, let's see. Okay. So, all right. So, yeah, fucked out for a second there. My bad. Ruby Tuesday, what's up? Good to see you in here. So your comment on the Who is Susanna Sparrow video I just dropped. Telling a pretty story that just happened to come up in conversation for you recently. So I'm glad I was on point for that one. I'm glad I came in right on time. But good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. As I'm saying, there's also a version of that cover art by Video Treasures. That's true, which we'll get to here in just a second. Matt saying, yeah, this is the first one I rented from the mom and pop shop near me when I was 12. My intro to Romero forever changed my life. The cover image is etched into my brain for life. Yeah. And I honestly prefer, I mean, just as as a poster, I prefer this image more so than I do the actual one sheet. I think the one sheet's kind of funky. Like the head on it, it looks like a mummy to me. Like it's like a sandy head. I don't know how to explain it other than that. But I do much prefer this cover art than the actual one sheet, to be honest with you. Since then, my first day poster was the actual album cover, the warping head. Very cool. Ruby Tuesday sent, I was just reading the making of Romero's Day of the Dead today. A lot of wild stories. Have you seen Savini's behind the scenes footage? I have. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But yeah, that book is fantastic. If you guys haven't read that book by Lee Carr, The Making of George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, it's the Bible. If you're a Day of the Dead fan like that you got to have that. You got to read that. There's so much good in that, and so much and Lee Carr goes into a lot of detail, a lot of information about Laurel at the time and George's relationship with with Rubenstein and Gornick and those guys. I mean, it's a phenomenal book. Check it out. But yeah, so yeah, the media, home entertainment came out with this in 1986, and then a few years later, Video Treasures came out with this one. Now this is a fairly similar look, as you can see, like the media. So Bub's looking a different direction in this one, but it's a very similar. I mean, I think even the two back. Let me look here. Let me go back one slide. Yes, even the two photos here on the back of the box are the same. And this is one I don't own either. Now, Video Treasures, I think, was a subsidiary of Media Home Entertainment, because Media Home Entertainment was pretty much out of business by the early 90s. I think they closed shop in 91, 92, something like that. And so Video Treasures kind of took over from that point, because I know Video Treasures, I think they did, was it Video Treasures that put out, no, that's Republic. What am I thinking of? Video Treasures have done stuff. I know they may have done a Dawn release. Anybody correct me in that, but I feel like I remember them doing one. I know Republic did one, HBO Video did one, so maybe they didn't. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, they put out this 1989, a few years after the fact. Video Treasures, like I said, pretty much the exact same cover art. Nothing really new to this, which could you imagine somebody doing that now? Could you imagine Scream Factory putting something out now that was exactly the same thing pretty much as it was 3 years prior? Yeah, I can kind of imagine that. So Scream Factory is probably not the best. Although they'll put it on 4K, but it's pretty much the exact same thing they had on the Blu-ray. But So yeah, so this is 89. Video Treasures put this out. Um, and then there was a lull. Then there was nothing until 1997. And this one actually, this is the first version of Day of the Dead that I ever owned on VHS. And this is Video Treasures slash Anchor Bay. I think they were kind of the same company at the time because I remember hearing Felcher talking about because he used to work for Anchor Bay, and I think he said Video Treasures was Anchor Bay before Anchor Bay, if I remember correctly. Somebody correct me if anybody knows, but yes, this is 1997. So this is what 8 years after the '89 release. 1980 or 1997, this VHS. This is the first one that I bought. I don't remember where I got it. I don't remember. Like I said, it was probably an FYE or a Sam Goody or something like that. But yeah, this is what the back of the box looks like. Just got the image there, bub. Nothing real, no real bonus features or anything, which, believe it or not, VHS actually had bonus features and stuff back in the day on some releases, like the Dawn, Anchor Bay. I think they put, the Monroeville Mall commercial and some stuff on there. But yeah, that's what the side looks like. The actual tape, as you can see, I have it nice and rewound and ready to go if I ever want to watch it. So yeah, this was 1997 on VHS from Video Treasures and Anchor Bay Entertainment. And this is kind of the beginning of Anchor Bay Entertainment. It was kind of in the late 90s because I think Anchor Bay, what were they doing before? I know it was something silly. I think Anchor Bay made their big strides doing like Thomas the Tank Engine videos or something like that. I think it was Thomas the Tank Engine. And so like the late 90s is when they started really dipping their toe in the horror genre. That's when they started releasing, the Dawn of the Dead, flipper disc on DVD. And like I said, this is kind of the beginning of DVD too. So this is, kind of the end of the VHS era for Day of the Dead. So 11 years, and Day of the Dead's got 3 releases, this being the third in 97. And the first that come out from Anchor Bay. Which Anchor Bay, we're going to continue on here with Anchor Bay here in just a second. But but yeah, that was the first version of Day of the Dead that I ever owned. It ends up saying for the awesome first night, and then dawn, now the darkest day the world has ever known. Yeah, I do like that tagline. That is a good tagline. Since then, Cookies in full swing. I got this link on MSN. All 17 George Romero films ranked worst to best. Well, who did that? Like, I hate those lists because it's always somebody's like, all his worst movie is Bruiser and his best movie is Dawn. It's like, where you get those people? It's like his best movie is Day, but I mean, See, I've never done a list like that because I can't pick like what his worst to best movie is. I mean, I guess his worst to me would be Two Evil Eyes, but just kind of trying to rank them is just, I don't know, something I'm not up for. Down is upset. Yeah, you got that signed by George. Got this one signed by George. Mine's not signed, anything like that. Like I said, I've probably had this tape for, God, how old am I? 20, 25 years? What? Jesus Christ. I'd say probably about 25 years because I think I probably bought this right around 2000, 2001. So had it for quite a while. Yeah, the warping head. And this is what I was talking about, like the cover. So like on this one, I don't know, we'll go back. So like on the first 2, you had, the bub on the cover with the zombies in the background. This one was always funky. Like this looks like a mummy movie to me. Let me try to get in the fucking camera frame here. But is it just me, or does this look like a mummy movie? Like this looks like The Mummy to me. I never understood that look on that. And it's even worse on that Waxwork vinyl release that they did. The look on that thing was just like, what is this? It makes it look like this movie takes place in a desert. Is basically what it looks like to me. Blake said I had the original release at Time of Dawn, and it was Thornium Eyes. Yep, I have the Thornium Eyes. Well, that was my first time seeing Dawn of the Dead, was the Thornium Eye VHS. Blake said it took me a long time to see Dawn opening without thinking of Thornium Eye opening. Yeah. That'd be fun to go back and do something with. Is the old opening, which my Alfa Romero opening or whatever is a nod to the United Film Distribution Company logo that I remember vividly from first time renting Day of the Dead, and just that sound, the or whatever the hell that is. Um, so here's the link. So what is this from? Like, is it MSN? Like, is that I didn't even know that's a fucking thing anymore. Is MSN News? But what year is this from? What is it from? I'll have to judge the validity on that. Um, Blake's not a great poster, but bad movie is Dawn of the Mummy. Yeah, that's what this poster looks like. This poster makes it look like this movie should be called Dawn of the Mummy. You know, that's what it looks like to me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I have a warm and fuzzies about this version because, like I said, it's the first version that I owned of Day of the Dead, which I have. I have old VHS tapes that I dubbed off of another copy. Like I'd rent Day of the Dead and just bootleg it onto it. Like you could do that back in the day with when you had VHS. Yeah. Of like two VCRs. If you connected the two VCRs, you could play one movie and record it with the other. I did that most of the shit that I rented back in the day. Just like the quality was awful, but we didn't care back in the day. So yeah, MSN. Okay. So yeah, check it out. See those like count those lists kind of just irk me though when I see them, and they're just like, how can they say that such and such is a bad movie? Yeah. But I'm just a nerd. I like it all, I guess. Downs Up said the Benny Hill Show had the same opening, United Film Distribution. I didn't know that. That's cool. I didn't know they were involved with the Benny Hill Show. Learn something new every day. Yeah, like Alan agreeing with me that this looks like a fucking mummy movie. But anyway, so yeah, that's the VHS Video Treasures Anchor Bay 97. Then 1998, we get into a format that I am not familiar with, and I never have been familiar with. I've never been interested in. I don't know why. I guess because I have no sentimental connection to it. But I'm talking, of course, about Laserdisc. So 1998, we get two Laserdisc releases of Day of the Dead. This one from Media and Image Entertainment, I believe. Let me see here. Let me get this full screen so I can see what the hell it is. So yeah, Media and Image Entertainment put out this. This is the first Laserdisc release of Day of the Dead, I believe, in the U.S. It was 1998, and this is I think this is basically just kind of a, straight ahead, bare bones release of Day of the Dead on Laserdisc. Because in the same year, Elite Entertainment would release the special edition Laserdisc release of Day of the Dead, and I believe this one has some extra bonus features on it, if I'm not mistaken. I think it does. I can't quite see the back of that there, but yeah, Laserdisc is just one of those formats, kind of like Beta to me. Like Beta is not something that I really seek out or collect. I don't own one Laserdisc. I don't own one Beta tape. But Laserdisc, for some reason, I guess, like I said, I didn't grow up with Laserdisc. Like I grew up on VHS. I grew up with the VCR and VHS tape, and that was that. And I guess Laserdisc back in the day was kind of the original, like, nerd for. I guess it's what 4K would be today. Like for most people, like most normal people, they're just like, oh, DVD's fine. Like, I want to watch a movie, I'll put in the DVD. I'm fine. Or they just stream it now. But if you're wanting to buy something physically, a lot, like most normal people now are just like, DVD's fine. And then some people like Blu-rays, but it's the real trolls, as George would say, that get into collecting the 4K releases of stuff now, I think, which is why they're kind of discontinuing making 4K players and Blu-ray players in general. I think I've been hearing that more and more. A lot of different companies are not making them anymore. So I feel like Laserdisc was kind of that in the 90s. Like if you were a hardcore film fan, if you were a fan of, just a film fan in general, horror films, whatever, like Laserdisc was the format to own. Because it looked better. I mean, it was like DVD before DVD. We're talking, early '90s, late '80s. Just the quality was better, the sound was better. Um, but to me, like growing up, I was poor white kid from Kentucky. Like when we got a VCR, it was a big deal, and I was just like, holy shit. So Laserdisc really never caught on the way like VHS did. Like VHS was pretty undefeated at that time, and I think DVD came along and killed VHS. And DVD was basically just a smaller version of a Laserdisc, and I think that was the thing because Laserdiscs looked like records, and in the '90s you got to remember like vinyl records were done, they were out. Like nobody listened to vinyl records anymore. It was all about CDs. It was smaller, compact, hence the name compact disc, I guess. But it was smaller, compact, easier to store than just the big laser disc. I mean, I think that had a role in it too. And I just think people were just like, yeah, why would I spend this money on a laser disc when I can just buy the VHS for cheaper? I don't know, but so yeah, I never grew up with laser disc. I've still to this day never watched a laser disc. I don't own one. I don't own Dawn on laser disc. I don't own Day on laser disc. I don't know. I don't. And if I come across some at like a flea market or something, I'll go through them and look. And if there's something amazing, I'll buy it. But very rarely do you come across people selling Laserdisc. And when they do, it's usually like, an officer and a gentleman or something like that, which is, a fine movie, but nothing that I would go out of my way to own on Laserdisc. But, so yeah, 1998, we get 2 Laserdisc releases, kind of a standard edition here from Media and Image Entertainment, and then the special edition from Elite Entertainment. And Elite Entertainment would actually they did the Night of the Living Dead. They did Dawn of the Dead, I believe. So Elite, when I talk about boutique labels, like the original boutique label, I kind of feel like Elite Entertainment was the first quote unquote boutique label. Because they were kind of selling niche products on a niche format to a niche audience. And that to me is kind of, you think of like a Vinegar Syndrome or, a lot of these companies now, and that's exactly what they do. Um, so yeah, I was kind of felt like Elite. I kind of feel like, unless anybody wants to correct me, maybe there's something before Elite Entertainment, but I feel like Elite was kind of the granddaddy of boutique labels, so to speak. Let's see. So what do you guys think? Are you guys Laserdisc collectors, Laserdisc fans, memories of Laserdisc? Because like it's just one of those things that like not a lot of people talk about. Not a lot of people have real passion for Laserdisc. Like I know a lot of people collect Laserdisc, but I don't. It's not. I don't know anybody, like even like physical media collectors. I don't know very many that are just like I'm hardcore all about Laserdisc. So I don't know. And again, I think for me, it's just because I didn't grow up with it. I have no nostalgia, no sentimental connection to it. Since then, as famous as he is for his for his Day of the Dead franchise, though, he's not recognized widely enough as a multi-talented auteur with an incisive lens on American politics and culture. Is that from the MSN article? I can agree with that. I can agree. Maybe I'll check it out. Yes, nerds unite. That's what we do here every weekend on the Romero channel. Us nerds unite, by God. And if you're new to the channel, if you're watching for the first time, I don't say this enough. I guess I'm supposed to probably say it more, but like the video, it helps a lot. The algorithm, it gets more eyes on the product, gets more eyes on these videos. I really appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, if you're watching this for the first time. And come nerd out with me every weekend about our beloved George Romero. Since that, I started a small Laserdisc collection in 1998, sort of by accident. Tons of VCDs as well. Yeah, VCD was kind of another format that kind of didn't really take off. What's the big, what are they called? The big, like, I don't know. I call them the 8-track film, the big cards. What are they called? It's not. Oh, I can't remember what I'm talking about. They look like giant floppy disks. Um, I think they kind of died out in the 80s, if I remember correctly. But yeah, stuff like that. Like I just never got never captured me. I guess because I have no real connection to it. But um, like I was saying, Suncoast promoted Laserdisc in the 1990s. I was in the army at the time. It was a horrible failure, probably worth money now. Um, yeah, Suncoast. I remember Suncoast. Suncoast was the place you would go if you wanted to buy a movie and spend like twice as much as you would anywhere else. Um, Down as Up, my first DVD was Dawn. I believe it got around 95. Elite Rocks, they were the first, yeah. First Dawn DVD, I think, was around the same time that this came out because there was like the big slew of releases around this time. So when this came out in 97, I think there was the Dawn release in 97 from Anchor Bay. Um, like I said, it was at the very beginning of DVD and shit like that. So I'm going to say like 97, right around that year where all that stuff was coming back out. Matt saying I have a copy of Dawn on Laser, and that's it. Yeah, I mean that's one like if I find it on eBay for a good price, somebody's letting go of it for a good price, then that's one. Like any Romero stuff, if I can find it for a good price on Laserdisc, I'll buy it. But they're so expensive now. Like people, I guess because they're rare, because nobody really it wasn't a big thing back in the day. Like they're not all over, kind of like VHS and DVD are. But um, it's the Japanese version with the gas mask silhouette on the cover. I know that one. Is that like the what is that called? The oh fuck, what is it? It's like an ultimate. It's an ultimate edition, or something like that. I can't remember what the hell it's called. I know which one you're talking about though. That's actually one that I thought about purchasing before and spending some pretty good money for because it's got a lot of really cool shit in it. That's the thing about a lot of those collections, like especially for Dawn back in the day on Laserdisc, because a lot of those Laserdiscs had some pretty cool stuff on them. One of which has the commentary track with George, Christine, and Tom from like '94. I want to say like mid 90s that I'd never heard before until a couple of years ago. And then I just came across it. I was like, holy shit. And that was like one of the first things I put on the channel. Um, but yeah, I think that was from the Elite Laserdisc, if I'm not mistaken. Down is Up says I got the Japanese version in the silver box. It's incredible. Multiple discs and cool noodles. Cool noodles that is packed with the cool photos and it's pretty big. Yeah, that's the one that I'm thinking of. That's one I'd love to have actually. John said I had the laser disc of Document of the Dead sealed. Got it on eBay in the late '90s, but it got destroyed by termites. Yeah, that sucks. I didn't expect that comment to end with "it got destroyed by termites." I wasn't expecting that. But I think I've seen that laser disc on eBay before. Again, it's one that's like $50. I'm just like, I'd love to have that, but um. So here's the list from MSN. Romero list. Worst to best. Vanilla Survival Diary, Two Evil Eyes, Bruiser the Dark Half, Amusement Park, Season of the Witch, Monkey Shines, Land of the Dead, Night Riders, Crazies, Creepshow, Day of the Dead, Martin. I mean, it's nothing that. I mean, that list isn't anything that like is shocking to me. Like I'd fully expect and say like Vanilla and Survival at the bottom, which I don't agree with, but generally speaking. So I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I'm surprised the amusement park is ahead of like the dark half. Bruiser's still too low. I don't care what Matt says. Um, how old is that article though? And down up the commentary that you have on your site is the commentary on the Japanese disc. It's incredible. Uh, yeah, I think it is. The Japanese love Dawn of the Dead, man. They got some really cool fucking releases over in Japan. I think that silver one is a Japanese release, if I'm not mistaken. If that's the one I'm thinking of. But anyway, speaking of DVD, VHS, 1998, specific date on this one actually, that's what I found. November 24th, 1998, from Anchor Bay Entertainment. And this came out on VHS and DVD the same day, pretty much the exact same thing. I don't own the VHS of it, but I do own the DVD that came out that year from Anchor Bay. And this is the DVD. The very first Day of the Dead DVD release was this one here in 1998, November 24th, 98, from Anchor Bay Entertainment. Again, it's kind of like that Dawn of the Dead release that came out right around the same time. It's got the flipper disc, side one. So it's got two sides to it. This I've never actually watched this version. I just bought it because I was like $5 on eBay. Um, but it's got the two sides on it. I don't know if you got to flip it over halfway through. Which, like I said, this is the early days of DVD. So if it's anything like the Dawn release that came out around that time, it doesn't look that great. But the bonus features, it does have widescreen presentation. I do love the fact, like, I miss those days when something being widescreen presentation was a special feature on a movie. It's like, wow, this is a widescreen, which my granny always hates. Like my grandma, anytime she'd buy a movie and watch it, if it was widescreen, she'd pull it out and throw it out. She didn't want to watch it. She was like, I can't see the whole screen. I'm like, no, actually, you are seeing the whole screen. It's just, she's like, no, there's black bars at the top and bottom, and it's cutting off the movie, and I can't watch it. I'm like, okay. My granny's an interesting character, let me tell you. But it does have behind the scenes footage that you're talking about earlier, and the theatrical trailer. So not a lot of bonus features on this one. This is a pretty bare bones release that they came out with in '98. But like I said, this is the beginning of DVD. So there you have it. And it's got a nice little card in it. You know, your chapter stops. Which is funny, they call it chapter stops. Like it's such new technology that they didn't know just to call it chapters yet. It was just like, these are the chapter stops. Just a little card there. So yeah, this was 1998, November 24th, from Anchor Bay Entertainment. This is the first of a nice little line of releases here from Anchor Bay. But what do you guys own this one? There's the side there. It's got the little see if it'll autofocus here. No. Anyway, you know what the fuck it looks like. Yeah, there's the side there. I don't love this artwork. Like, we're talking about, just even compared to the fucking Mummy artwork that the last one had. Not a big fan of this artwork. Like, it looks generic. Like, it looks very generic to me. Like, it looks like something I put together in Canva. You know what I mean? Like, never was a big fan of this artwork, but yeah, do you guys have any memories or any thoughts of this release? Like I said, it was his first release on DVD from Anchor Bay. Yeah, Bruiser. Hey, they're missing out. You know, whatever. I love Bruiser. I don't care what anybody says. Now, as I've said, the amusement park kind of scared me and bumped me out about growing up. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the scariest things in life is growing old and dying. So yeah, I thought the amusement park was pretty. This was one of those movies that kind of bums you out and kind of scares you about real life shit. John says vanilla isn't bad; it's just pointless. Yeah, I could see that. Can't blame Romero. They forced Rudy Ritchie to flesh out an idea that he couldn't in a phase that he had already passed. Yeah, that's true. But I think what they made out of vanilla, you know, in the end was worth it. Like I get a lot out of that movie. I love There's Always Vanilla. But yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, it is kind of a pointless movie. Like, it wasn't meant to be what it is, but I think what it is enjoyable and speaks to me on different levels for sure. And I think there's a lot of good to it, but you know, it's not for everybody for sure. Brian said this was your FYE copy. So this is the copy that you stole from FYE in your youth. So there you go. There's a fond memory of the of this Anchor Bay release of Day of the Dead. Yeah, like I said, I remember seeing this a lot back in the day, but like I said, the cover never blew me away. It just looked generic. Like, it just looked like the most standard, and I was just never like, you know, I got to buy that. I got to have that. And then here recently, like I said, I was just on eBay and I found it for like $5. Somebody was selling it. I was like, I'll buy it. I don't own it, so I'll take it. It's $5, free shipping. What the hell? And you know, like I said, it's the first release of Day of the Dead on DVD, so gotta have it. Blake said, I've never seen it or heard soundtrack or heard Shockwaves from 1970s is very good. I've heard of Shockwaves. I've heard of it. I've never seen it. Widescreen hi-fi VHS tapes were awesome. Yeah, well, don't tell that to my granny. She would wholeheartedly disagree with you on that one. Okay, Down is Up has this one. Since says if I have that DVD version, it's packed away in a box. I think a lot. I have a lot of DVDs packed away in boxes. I don't get rid of them. Like I've thought about it. Like it's like I could just take these down to the Mega Replay and get a few bucks out of them. But something's just telling me like just hang on to them, just hang on to them because I feel the same way. I felt the same way about VHS a long time ago, and now a lot of the VHS that I just either threw away or just sold for a quarter at a yard sale is worth $50, and I'm just what the fuck? Like, why is this worth so much money now? So just I would say hang on to your DVDs as long as possible because you never know. Brian says, always thought it was a shame we never got day deleted scenes. I know there's production stills of unused scenes, but it's a bummer. Yeah, like I don't know how much behind the scenes stuff there is. I know that they may have shot a few different angles for certain things, but I think from what I've heard, Day of the Dead is pretty much George's script. Like they pretty much got everything George wanted into that movie. I don't think there's a whole there may be some deleted shots, like there's some different shots or different angles of stuff perhaps, but I've never heard of any like deleted scenes that that they cut out that would have just made the movie better or anything like that. I don't know if that's out there. But I don't know. You never know. We'll see. Because I think I don't know who has all the the original negatives and all the footage and stuff that was, if there was anything cut out, but we'll talk about it here in a little bit. I want to kind of get into the topic of will Day of the Dead get a 4K release anytime soon, and where are the elements and all that, because I think some of the sound elements are missing, and it's a whole ordeal that I've heard some various takes on from different people, but we're working our way up to 4K. We're still at DVD right now, so since then, Shockwaves is cool. SS Nazi Zombies with Peter Cushing. It sounds kind of cool. George Took the Land Zombies, Emerging from Water from Carnival of Souls, or Shockwaves, or both. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I've never seen. I feel like I may have seen Carnival of Souls years and years and years ago, but I don't think I've seen Shockwaves. Brian says there were a few scenes involving a snake and a zombie bride. Pictures exist of it, but you're right, very minor. Interesting. I'll have to look at that. Down is up saying they have a long behind the scenes video that Tom Savini shot. It might still be on YouTube. Yeah, Tom. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that Tom shot during that period. I know a lot of it is on a lot of these different releases, but I think there is like a full version of it somewhere. I think I did see it on YouTube. I can't tell you where, but I think if you look up Day of the Dead behind the scenes footage on YouTube, it should pop up, I would think. Rick saying, yep, I bought my first copy of Dawn of the Dead 78 as a Video Treasures VHS from a Payless in Bluff, California, 1998. Okay, there you go. I think that was it I think I know which one you're talking about. I was pretty damn sure that Video Treasures did a VHS of Dawn of the Dead. Like I said, I did that History of Dawn of the Dead VHS or on home video like a year ago. So it's been a while since I've gone back to it. But anyway, so we get the DVD, the first DVD release from Anchor Bay, November 24th, 1998. Then 5 years or so go by. And then August 19th, 2003, the granddaddy of them all. To me, this is still, to this day, the best release of Day of the Dead on physical media. The DiviMax 2-disc set from Anchor Bay. It's packed with fucking features. So disc 1's got the widescreen presentation, audio commentary, and this is the first audio commentary that I remember hearing on Day of the Dead. And I think, because I don't think it was on Laserdisc. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it was. Audio commentary with George Romero, Tom Savini, Cletus Anderson, and Laurie Cardill. Very, very fun commentary. But this is an even cooler commentary to me, and it's one I've been wanting to go back here and listen to again recently because I've been listening to him and Quentin Tarantino's podcast, the Video Archives podcast. He was just on Rogan not too long ago. But Roger Avery, the co-writer of Pulp Fiction, director of Killing Zoe, does an audio commentary for Day of the Dead because Roger Avery is a huge Romero fan, a huge Dawn fan, just a huge Romero fan. So hearing his commentary, like when I first got this, I remember the first time I got this DVD. It's Christmas 2003. After it just come out, I was what 14 at the time, I think 14, 15. I think I was 15 at this time. Christmas 2003, I'd have been 15. So 15 years old, Christmas comes around. My parents buy me this for Christmas. So Christmas morning, I get this, my very own TV. I had a TV before, but I had a brand new TV and a brand new DVD player, and this was the DVD that I got for it. So I spent all of Christmas watching everything on both of these discs. Watched the movie, watched both commentaries, the many days of Day of the Dead, the all new, the 39-minute documentary, including interviews with all kinds of people. Great documentary. I think it's a David Gregory, who's I think the head guy over at Severin now. I think that's his work. I know Felcher worked on this release. He's talked about that before. He had an issue with it. If you guys have ever noticed the soundtrack on this version, there's a scene. So at the beginning of the movie, when they're getting out of the helicopter and they're walking to the elevator to go down into the mines, the line that Terry Alexander, John's character, says, where he's like, "Shit, I could do that even if all this wasn't going on." In this version, he still says, "Right, I could do that even if all this was." That's for some reason that got in here somehow. And that's like the overdubbing that they used for like when they played it on TV on like the Sci-Fi Network or Sci-Fi Channel or whatever. Because that's a version I would love to own. I need to find that. That's got to be on YouTube somewhere. Is the Sci-Fi Channel dubbed version of Day of the Dead, where they dub out all the cussing with silly words. But that shows up on here. So if you go back, if you still own this, which I hope everybody does, because like I said, even though it's a DVD, that we've had Blu-ray releases, I still feel like, to me, this is the best release of Day of the Dead on DVD, VHS, Blu-ray, whatever. There's just so much. It's got 31 minutes of production footage from Tom Savini, the behind-the-scenes stuff, behind-the-scenes photos, posters, and advertising art, gallery of memorabilia. It's got the original screenplay and production memos on the DVD-ROM. If you guys remember doing that back in the day, when you could take the DVD and put it into your computer, and it would actually have extra features that you can go, like the screenplay and stuff like that. Which I don't think they do that anymore. Which a lot of fucking computers don't have, disk drives anymore. So yeah, I remember Christmas Day, like 2003. If you guys want to know what I was doing, I was in my room watching everything on this. And like I said, when I got this, I wasn't the biggest fan of Day of the Dead. Like the first time I saw Day of the Dead, when I rented Day of the Dead VHS, first time I saw it, I didn't like it. I was just like, this is boring. Like, where's the action? Because I wanted Dawn of the Dead. But when I got this, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch it again. And then I just immersed myself in it. And I was like, holy fuck, I love this movie. So yeah, it's got the flap here, which is just genius packaging. Like you don't get packaging like this anymore. Everybody's fucking hung up over slip covers and slip cases and steel books and shit now. Give me more of this. Give me more of this. Here, let me move that out of the way there. You open that up, you get Dr. Frankenstein there, you get Dr. Tongue there, you get your two doctors. God, you can tell this is all because the disc is already falling out of the packaging here. But yeah, you got your two discs, your feature presentation, and all your bonus materials. But the cool part about this, which I was actually going through it again, which had been years since I'd looked at this thing. But the cool part is it comes with this little booklet with it, which is like it's got all the liner notes. It's got a review from Roger Ebert from the Chicago Sun-Times, August 30th, 1985. And then it's got the liner notes that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me check, but I believe it was written by Michael Felcher. So, yeah, so Felcher does the liner notes on this one. So it's a great read. But the cool part about it, it's supposed to be like Dr. Frankenstein's, Dr. Logan's notepad that he's working with while he's, cutting these zombies all to pieces. Yeah, you can see here on the cover from the files of Dr. M. Logan, PhD. Anybody know what Dr. Logan's first name is, by the way, in the chat? First person with the correct answer will win a prize. But it's got all these cool little illustrations on here of like the different zombies and the different, quotes and phrases that Dr. Logan would write on here. And it's kind of cool because I don't know who did this packaging or who came up with the idea for these little notes and stuff on here, but it does kind of dig deeper into the psyche of Dr. Logan and kind of, builds his character out a little more in weird ways. It's like right here, I'm going to need more specimens is one of the lines. We can teach them. Why don't they understand? So this is all like notes that Dr. Logan's writing down on this notepad. It's so cool to look at. And the illustrations are pretty damn fun too. What month is it is one of the lines. There's one here. Let me see if I can find it that I thought was pretty funny when I was going through it the other night. But yeah, it's like pages and pages of stuff. So yeah, this kind of is when he starts going crazy. He starts like writing mother, mother, I need more time. These conditions are horrendously inadequate. Domestication equals cure. They're calling me Frankenstein. Is that funny? Like shit like that. You can kind of see his deterioration, his mental deterioration through this notebook. And I think it's kind of fucking genius. I'm trying to find where's the goddamn line that cracked me up. I don't want to sleep anymore. It's all so funny. We can trick them. I don't know. I got a kick out of it when I was going through it the other night. I can't find the one that really got me. Oh, it's on the fucking very back. No wonder. I don't know if you guys can see. It's supposed to. It says, is it going to focus on that? Maybe. There you go. This never would have worked on an island, which anybody that's familiar with the story of Day of the Dead was originally supposed to take place on an island. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so it comes with this little booklet. It's a whole little packaging here. And this is one that you can find used. I mean, there are so many copies of these out there. And this was like one of the first. Like, you got to think like Anchor Bay back in the day, man. Like around this time, the stuff that they were putting out, the releases that they were doing, you had the Necronomicon, the big like Book of the Dead release of Evil Dead, which actually was the Book of the Dead, the rubber book. They had that the Wicker Man release that was in like a wooden box, like a legit wooden box. Like Anchor Bay, like still to this day, I don't think there's a company that topped what Anchor Bay did with releases back in the day. So this isn't even like the craziest shit that they put out back in the day, but for me, like this is up there with the Ultimate Edition of Dawn of the Dead, the box set that they put out. I could go on and on about this one. I just love this release. I'll always have a special place in my heart for it because this is the release that made me fall in love with the movie. But what do you guys say in the chat? I've been going on for quite a while about it. What do you guys think? I got quite an opinion here. They did, or Anchor Bay or something like that. I guess you're talking about the Video Treasure VHS. Well, Video Treasures and Anchor Bay are the same company. Anchor Bay was Video Treasures before they became just Anchor Bay, if I remember correctly. But I think that's the case. So it's the same thing. John says maybe you're thinking that because it says Video Treasures when you play the Anchor Bay Dawn. Yeah, maybe. But like I said, Video Treasures, Anchor Bay, same thing. Down says, has anyone seen, or if you know, if the last shot of Dawn when Fran was supposed to get her head cut off and Peter shoots? No, I don't think they ever filmed that, from what I understand. I think they shot like a test shot of Fran sticking her head in the propeller blades. I think but that's about all. I don't think they actually ever shot that ending. But that's still one of those big mysteries when it comes to Dawn of the Dead is whether or not they shot that or not. Because because if you go back to Document of the Dead, which was shot while they were filming Dawn of the Dead, George clearly says, well, we shot both, because I love the tragic ending. So he's saying there that they did shoot the tragic ending, but you hear Gornick, he says, oh, we never shot that. So there's a lot of conflicting information about that. And maybe George at the time meant they were working, they shot the test, the test shot or whatever, um, but yeah, I don't think so. But again, it's one of those mysteries that still hasn't been, completely, sealed shut yet, I guess. Since I like the Velcro flap cover on that one, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. And the fact that this thing is 22 years old now and still works, the Velcro's still good. Like, I don't know, it's quality shit. It's better than a damn slipcase, I'll say that. It is available anywhere. Yeah, I mean, you can find those anywhere. I mean, I see them all the time at like Mega Replays, stuff like that. At $3, you can get it. Because they just sold so damn many back in the day. And typically, Anchor Bay is one of those companies that still to this day, if I come across like a DVD of an Anchor Bay release, like what I was saying earlier about media, like when I see media, I'm like, oh, that's a cool company. I want that. Like that's quality to me. Anchor Bay was that to me and still is. Like if I see an old DVD that's Anchor Bay, like I'll buy it. But like back in the day, especially like if there was a movie that I had never seen, never heard of, but it was like an old horror movie and it was Anchor Bay, like I had to get it. Like that's how I discovered a lot of, like children shouldn't play with dead things. I remember seeing that VHS that Anchor Bay did. It was like the hard shell release that Anchor Bay did for children shouldn't play with dead things back in the day. And I remember seeing that at Kroger for $5. I was like, I'll buy it. What the hell? It's Anchor Bay. But yeah, that was kind of what Anchor Bay was back in the day, which is kind of like to me the stamp of like, oh, this is good. Check it out. Or if it's not good, it's something you should see. Because I was at the point where I was just wanting to watch anything horror, Rick's saying now that is way cool. Yeah, I mean it's a great great release for sure. Since then, Tom talks about the Fran dummy shots in some behind the scenes vid, but the Fran head was clearly repurposed for the Wooly shotgun blast. Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't know if the head was. I know the mold. He may have still had the mold, maybe done a different mask. So I don't know. Again, it's one of those unsolved mysteries, kind of like who is Susanna Sparrow. That'd be a good show. Just go through all the unsolved mysteries of Dawn of the Dead. There you go. Christmas gifts. Yeah, that was one of the. It's so silly because it's just a DVD, but it's still to this day like one of those Christmas gifts that I still remember, all these years later, and have vivid memories of like that whole day of just like watching every piece of footage, every bonus feature, everything on that thing. I became so fucking familiar because, for one, this is the early days of DVDs. Like I said, this is my first DVD player that I actually had in my room. We didn't have a whole lot of DVDs. Like the first couple of DVDs I remember ever buying when we first got our first DVD player in the early 2000s, I got a shitty Hollywood Classics Night of the Living Dead release, which I don't know if you guys have seen. I actually still own it over there. But it's a horrible transfer. So when I first put it down, I'm like, oh, I thought DVD was supposed to be like the future. This looks horrible. But we bought that, and then funny enough, I think we bought the. I want to say we bought the Resident Evil on DVD because that came out right at the exact same time that we got the DVD player. So yeah, so like you got to think like this is before I owned any version of Dawn of the Dead on DVD. So this is my first chance getting to listen to like George on an audio commentary talking about Day of the Dead and listening to him talk about the experience of man. This is the one point in my life where I still was like my goal, my dream was to be a filmmaker one day, to be a director. And so like listening to this was my education into like, how do I make a movie? I listen to these audio commentaries. I watch these bonus features. I just watch them over and over and over again. And that's kind of how I retained all this useless knowledge that I still have today, I guess. But so yeah, that was my education. So like watching these DVDs and all these bonus features and commentaries and stuff like that was just like constant over and over and over again. Like I want to learn everything there's to learn. But yeah, I don't know. I can go on and on about that release, but we'll keep rolling. Um, since I love the famous Al Pacino Scarface TV dub, special edition has a super cut. Very funny. Matthew, Michael, Matthew. Okay, so we're talking Logan's first name. John got it first. Matthew Logan, right? Which they don't say in the movie, but that's what it is. Dr. Matthew Logan. There you go. Um, but again, it was like a little mini game of Romero trivia. Everybody coming in right at the exact same time on that one. For a second, I was like, "What the hell?" For Sensei and Michael, I was like, "Yes, can I help you?" Rick saying that is way cool. You have the 30th anniversary Blu-ray disc edition of Return of the Living Dead by Dan O'Bannon. The cover is just like that, very artistic icon, almost like the movie post. Yeah. Did Anchor Bay do a release of Return of the Living Dead? I can't remember. The only one I ever had on DVD of Return of the Living Dead was the MGM release. Did Anchor Bay ever do a Return of the Living Dead? I can't remember. It would make perfect sense if they did, but I don't remember. Never owned it if they did. Let's see. Since then, I haven't looked at that booklet since it just came out. Yeah, it'd been fucking years for me too until the other night when I was pulling all this stuff out and I was just like going through. I was just looking. I was just like, oh, this is kind of funny. It's pretty entertaining. And then reading Roger Ebert's review of Day of the Dead, which is kind of a shitty review. I mean, I don't think Roger Ebert was a big fan of Day of the Dead at all. So it's kind of funny that he puts it in there, and then Felsher comes in with the liner notes after the fact, kind of, because Felsher loves Day of the Dead, obviously, and kind of pointing out like how Roger Ebert was kind of wrong, but yes, sir. Great version of today. Definitely is. Matt Sam bought this one from Best Buy on release day, I think 2003. Yes, sir. 2003, August 19th, 2003, which is August 19th. Isn't that the same day that the world comes to an end? August 19th. No, August 29th, 1997. That's the day the world comes to an end, Terminator. What is August 19th? That's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1973, right? August 19th, 1973 is when that. Anyway, I'm I'm fucking veering off into all kinds of other spots here. John says George may have misremembered. Tony Bubba said in the same walk with Frumkus that the first stuff they shot before the mall came in at 45. Bubba said it was more like 90. Okay. I honestly, I don't think I've ever heard Booba talk about Dawn too much. Steven, what's up, man? Steven Ustrack Jr. is in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you. I got that version back in the day from Best Buy. I was lucky. Yeah, Best Buy was kind of the spot to go back in the day. Not so much anymore, but I was lucky enough to grab the last copy. The rest were just single disc. Just also got the Dawn of the Dead Ultimate Edition as well. Yeah, I remember getting that Dawn Ultimate Edition for my birthday. That following year, I think 2004 is when that came out in October. I don't know if that's when it came out, but that's when I think I got it the day it fucking came out at Walmart. I just fucking remember it. An anniversary edition release of Return of the Living Dead. Okay. Yeah, that's one that they just came with a 4K. I think a Steelbook 4K of that I remember seeing at Walmart here recently. I need to pick up. Michael was a total guest for Logan. Yeah, I mean it's like I said, it's not in the movie. But I can't remember where the hell I saw that as. Maybe in the screenplay, but yeah, Dr. Matthew Logan. Believe it or not. Texas Chainsaw's August 18th. August 18th, 1970. Yeah, I think you're right. What is August 19th? I swear to God, August 19th something. Fuck it. August 19th is the day that Sally Hardesty escaped. We'll just say that. John saying Booba talked about it at the first Dawn reunion. I think it was 2003. Interesting. I'll have to track that down. But yes, Anchor Bay and DiviMax. DiviMax was kind of a thing back in the day. I guess you can kind of call this technically a DiviMax release. But yes, Anchor Bay, this is, to me, still the best release of Day of the Dead. And transfer-wise, like I said, the sound's kind of fucked up in spots. But for me, like in terms of a total package, like this is pretty hard to beat. for me, just for sentimental reasons, I guess. But um, but about a year later, September 7th, 2004, they came out with kind of a standard DivvyMax edition from Anchor Bay. Yeah, if you guys can see that, it's got the audio commentaries. It's got both audio commentaries, I guess. So it's basically kind of what they did with Dawn of the Dead when they released the box set. They released the which I think is this one they did it in reverse. This was kind of this 2-disc release, which is the special edition or whatever the fuck, was the first release that they did, and then they kind of came out with the standard. Where Dawn was kind of the reverse. They did kind of a standard release, and then they did the box set after the fact. But yeah, this is basically just the feature presentation disc on this version. But again, this is one that I never bought, and I found on eBay for like $5. So I said, "What the hell?" But yeah, you can even see the disc itself is the exact same disc as the one that's in the 2-disc version here. But this came out about a year or so after September 2004. And like I said, it's DivvyMax 2. It's pretty much the exact same thing. But then we're moving on from DVD to Blu-ray, upgrading Blu-ray here. Anchor Bay put out the Blu-ray of Day of the Dead October the 2nd, 2007. So very early days of Blu-ray. This is the same year that Anchor Bay did the Dawn Blu-ray. And then we get the Day of the Dead Blu-ray here. There's the back there, which is pretty much the exact same style of release as the Dawn of the Dead Blu-ray. And this one, again, is pretty much everything that's on. So basically, at this point, Anchor Bay was just kind of re-releasing all the shit. So it's pretty much a lot of the stuff that's still on that version, but it's just in 1080p. Audio commentary with George Savini, Cletus Anderson, Laura Cardillo, Roger Avery, The Many Days of Day of the Dead, which I don't think I spoke about a minute ago, but that's a great documentary on Day of the Dead. Fast Film Facts, whatever the hell that is. I guess it's like pop-up video back in the day. Behind the scenes footage on this, an audio interview with Richard Liberty, which I do believe is on the DVD, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's got the audio interview with Richard Liberty. So yeah, pretty much everything that was on those versions in terms of like bonus features, they put on this Blu-ray. The Blu-ray itself, the transfer doesn't look great. It's still very dark. It's doesn't really pop out. That's the thing about Day of the Dead, though. It's a pretty dark movie, not just tonally, but the look of the movie. But yeah, so this was released on Blu-ray 2007 from Anchor Bay, which even the disc kind of looks just like the DVD too. But this one I think you can still find, you can still get for pretty cheap. It's not as hard to find as the Dawn Blu-ray that Anchor Bay did that's out of print now, which that's the last version of Dawn of the Dead to come out in the US in 2007 was that fucking Blu-ray. So yeah, this would be Anchor Bay's Sayonara, because this is right around the time, because you can still see it here, that Anchor Bay was kind of going off, becoming Stars. I think Stars bought them out or something like that. And this is kind of where Anchor Bay kind of took a turn away from doing a lot of horror stuff, and then just kind of, I don't know what the fuck they're doing now, which I hear that Anchor Bay is kind of trying to make a comeback and kind of releasing some stuff here and there. I think they're releasing the Gunnar Hansen documentary here shortly, which I'm curious to check out. I'll check that out. But yeah, this is kind of around the time that Anchor Bay had kind of fallen off the map, and other companies were kind of coming up and taking its place, one of which is not a US release, but I wanted to bring this up because I do, if it's not the Anchor Bay 2-disc version, I gotta say, this version, it's a UK release from Arrow Video from 2010, I believe is when this came out. This is a killer version too. If you have a region-free player, this is a Blu-ray as well. But this one comes with a pretty cool, I don't know if I've ever showed you guys this, a little comic book here, Day of the Dead Desertion. And it kind of tells the story. It's kind of a prequel it kind of tells the story of Bub's life before he became a zombie. I don't know. It's a fun read. I mean, it's I wouldn't call it official canon. It's not written by Romero or anything, um, but it's cool. You know, it's kind of cool. I don't know who did this. Zornell? I don't know. It doesn't say. But yeah, this version's pretty cool. It's got the window box, which Arrow used to do. I mean, they did Dawn with the Arrow box, the window box. They did City of the Living Dead. They did quite a bit with the little window box releases, like pre slipcover. They did the Arrow box, but it's got the multiple covers from around the world that you can change it to. It's got all kinds of shit in here. 2 discs. Comes with a poster. I'm not gonna unfold it unless you guys desperately want me to. Well, what the hell? I'll go ahead and do it. I thought it was a lot bigger than it was, but you get the UK poster here, and then the Arrow version of the poster. Pretty cool. What do you guys think of? What do you guys do with posters that come with, like Scream Factory does a lot of posters. Arrow does some posters like this one. When you guys get a release like this and it comes with a poster, do you guys put the posters up? Because I usually keep everything packaged, everything in the package, basically. Got a booklet here, which I have never read, actually. Not looking at it. It's called For Every Dawn There's a Day, or Why George Romero Would Never Direct a Rambo Movie by Colum Waddell. Interesting. Might have to read that later. But yeah, this full of bonus features, some stuff that's not available in the US. Joe of the Dead, little documentary, the interview with Joe Pilato, which is on my channel, actually, if you guys want to check it out. It's got an audio commentary track with Greg Nicotero, Mike Deek, Everett Burrell. I think Berger's on it. Howard Berger's on it. It's a really fun commentary. It's one of those commentaries where it feels like you're just hanging out with Nicotero and the crew, and they're shooting the shit while watching Day of the Dead. A lot of really cool stuff on here. Anything that I'm missing? I don't know. I just want to give this one a quick. Like I said, I was going to keep it to strictly US releases, but I wanted to bring this one up because to me, like, if anything compares to, at this point at least, if anything compares to the Anchor Bay 2-disc release, it's this 2-disc Arrow release. And the transfer on this one looks pretty damn good. I actually, comparing it to the one we're about to talk about from Scream Factory, I think it may be a little better, but that's just my opinion. I'm a huge Arrow fan. Love Arrow Video still to this day. They do, which some of the releases here recently haven't really been blowing me away. But again, like we've talked about with Anchor Bay, like we talked about with Media Home Entertainment, like when I see Arrow Video on something, I know it's like the stamp of quality. I'm just like, okay, I know this is going to be well made and put together. It's going to be good. Larry's in the house. What's up, Larry? Hey, guys, off topic. It's just past 12 a.m. It's my birthday. I'm fucking 50. Well, happy birthday, old man. Fucking 50. Wow. You do not look 50. You do not come off as 50. Like, honest to God, Larry, when you told me that you had grown-ass kids, I was blown away. I was like, what? I don't know why. Like, I knew you're older than I was, but you look great for 50. So keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be. I think you'll be just fine, man. But happy birthday, man! It is. We are. Yep. 12:11 right now on the East Coast. Let's all wish the man himself, Mr. Lawrence DeVincent, a happy birthday. And speaking of Arrow Video, man, who's worked on some Arrow Video titles, the Between Night and Dawn, did a lot of bonus features for that. So thank you very much for that, Larry. But happy birthday, my man. Appreciate you stopping in and celebrating your birthday with us tonight. Let's see. Since I remember I'm not saying that, Divx or whatever limited use disc had an expiration and were much cheaper. Format died quickly, but the Divx code hung around on computers. I don't remember much about that, to be honest with you. Everybody saying happy birthday to Larry. Larry saying thank you. Hitting the big 5-0. Big 50. So Larry, you're old enough to remember. You're probably old enough to remember when the fucking media release came out in '86. So don't worry, man. I'm catching up with you. I'm catching up with you. See, Rick saying I saved them in case. Yeah, I saved them. I don't throw them out for sure. But yes, in the original packaging if possible. Yeah, I keep them pretty much in the packaging unless it's something really fucking cool that I got to put up. But um, down is up. I love posters, just don't have enough wall space. Yeah, me too. I feel you. You know, like me and Matt, we got shit on the ceiling. Which is fun because I for some reason I don't know, I guess maybe with the heat and the cold air, because like I said, we're buried under a foot of ice and snow right now. I don't know what it is, but came in this morning, came into my room here, and my Night of Living Dead poster had fallen to the fucking floor. That's a heartbreaking sight when you walk in and you see that. Keeping shit on the ceiling is difficult. I don't know. There's a rhyme and a reason to it, and 99.9% of the time you're fine, but every now and then, for whatever reason, it wants to come down. I don't know, but what the hell? I'm saying happy 50th, Larry. They're saying he's officially old. You know what they say, 50 is the new 30. You know, with the advancement in technology, you know, we're good. Which I don't know, man. Like I remember when I was like a teenager, 50 to me was like, oh wow, that's old. But now, like I'm just like, that's not too bad. Like you're still in your prime. You're good. That's just because I'm getting up there too. So, but hey, you know what they say? It's what the great Tom Petty once said: if you're not getting older, you're already dead. So, look at it that way, I guess. Holy Parish of Doom. What's up, man? Good to see you as always. One of the most badass channels on YouTube just for that name alone. At 55, I've moved the goalpost to 60 to be considered old. Yeah, that's what you do, man. The older you get, you move those goalposts farther and farther away, you know. Because, man, if you would have asked me 20 years ago if 36 was old, I'd be like, holy shit, 36. Hell yeah. Put my ass in a rocking chair. But here I am, still in a room surrounded by toys and posters and whatever. I'll never grow up, damn it. I'll never grow up. I refuse. Rick's saying exactly 9:11 p.m. here in California. Yeah, it's still early for you guys. Of course, Larry. You're the man, Larry. We appreciate you. We all appreciate you. And hope you have a good one, my man. I'm surprised you didn't take a trip to Pittsburgh to celebrate your birthday. Would fully expect that. Codec. Oh, I guess you're talking about the DivX or whatnot. Add a command strip, you'll be fine. Yeah, I did. I added a couple more and stuck it back up there and just, you stick it up and you just press it and you just press it and you hold it and you hold it and then you let go and you're like, okay. But then you start to see it kind of, yeah, it gives me nightmares. Larry says, yes, I rented the Day Media VHS and copied it from VCR to VCR. That's what I did. It had the Macrovision anti-copy shit. It went bright to dark the whole time, and I watched it over and over and over again. Yeah, I remember that. I did the same thing. I made a VHS tape where I rented the media version of Day, Thorny MI version of Dawn, and then I think the colorized version of Night of the Living Dead, because that was the one that they had at the video store. Rented all three of them, and then copied them all onto one VHS tape one weekend. And they look terrible because it's at like what was the speed that you would fit 6 hours of stuff on back in the day, and it looked like shit. The quality was bad, and dubbing it from another tape was like extra bad on top of that. So that tape looks terrible, but fuck, I wore it the fuck out back in the day. Rick likes that quote. Yes, very, very true. Very good quote about getting older. There you go. If you're not getting older, you're already dead. So enjoy it. Holy Person Doom saying, "Hey man, thanks. I have posters up down here in the basement. My favorite is the original Phantasm one sheet I have framed. I bet Matt's a big fan of that. Matt, do you have a Phantasm one sheet? I'd be very surprised if you didn't. I love fucking Phantasm. I got to go back and rewatch some of the sequels. It's been a long time since I've seen the sequels, and I haven't seen a couple of the sequels. I think I've only seen up to part 3. I never went past that for whatever reason. But the original Phantasm to me is like it's like a standalone level of just genius horror filmmaking, in my opinion. But the 2 and 3 are not bad. It's just like the original Phantasm to me is up there with like the original Halloween or the original like Alien and shit like that around that time period. Um, it's just genius. So I'm trying to catch up here. We got one more release to go here, and then we'll kind of dig into the 4K discussion if there's going to be a 4K release of Day of the Dead anytime soon. Um, Brian said, found the production still of the alleged deleted scene from Day, but chat won't let me include a link. Interesting. Shoot, you got my email. I think we were emailing because I sent you you won something from the Romero trivia contest. Send it to me. I'll put it up on the channel next week. We'll look at it and discuss. I don't know if I may have never seen it before. I know Mike Ankus has a lot of behind the scenes photos and stuff that I'd never seen before. Um, I was at his table back at Living Dead Weekend and on October last year, just talking, and we were just kind of looking, and he was kind of pointing out and telling me what was what, and I was like, wow, I've never seen a lot of these before. But yeah, shoot me an email with that, man. I'd love to check that out. Larry says, well, once Day hit cable channel, I recorded over the shitty Macrovision copy I made. Well, when it hit the cable channel, are you talking about HBO, or did you record the Sci-Fi Channel version where he's like, all right, I could do that even if this wasn't going on? Yeah, poor people in LA County, 4 wildfires going on now. It's fucking crazy, man. Like, what do you do in that situation in a state that is low on water? It's crazy. Very sad, but if I could ship some of the snow and the ice that we have here out west to you guys, I totally would. But I don't know. I don't think it works. But I mean, you guys are by an ocean. Can you not use? I wondered this. Can you not use ocean water? Can you not just? I don't know. I don't know how that shit works. Um, yeah, there you go. SLP, super long playing, I think is what that stands for. Which is a word that nobody uses a whole lot anymore. Super, like everything back in the day was super this, super that. You had Super Nintendo. Nothing is super anything anymore. I think that needs to make a comeback. Larry said didn't send sucked how many movies are recorded from a rental with Macrovision. Yeah, did a lot of that back in the day. Matt says, yes, I have the OG Phantasm one sheet. I figured you would, man. I figured you would. It's pretty awesome. I have a VHS release, like I think the first release of Phantasm on VHS. I do have that. Um, there's somewhere. It's in pretty rough shape, but still pretty cool. Yeah, man, send that over to me. Love to check that out. Matt says I have the 4K release poster signed by Coscarelli as well. Very cool. So it's in a lobby card. Interesting. Down is Upset in the summer of 79. Alien came out, Dawn of the Dead came out, and Phantasm came out. Incredible summer. Yeah, I mean, that the late 70s, 78, 79, even 77 to a degree. I mean, Jesus, how tough years to beat, in my opinion. Like, to me, the 70s are my favorite. That's my favorite decade for movies in general, I think. Most anything from the 70s, I'm going to kind of dig in one way or another, even if it's not a great movie or anything. I just love that 70s vibe, just that, that time period filmmaking. Okay, so it's HBO, not an edited. Okay, good. Although I would love to have the Sci-Fi Channel dub version of Day of the Dead, where they have to dub over every cuss word that Rhodes and Steele are spewing out, and it's like the silliest shit you've ever heard. Like, where did they come up with this stuff? Um, Because they need to actually use ocean water for tankers and helicopters to fight the blazes. I figured they would, but I don't know. It's crazy. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up with all these comments here, and then we're going to get into this Scream Factory Blu-ray, which is the last thing that we have from Day of the Dead here. The collector's edition. This came out in 2013 from Scream Factory, aka Shout Factory. And as you can see, this is without the slipcover. And this is one, as with most Scream Factory titles, it's got the reversible artwork on it. There's the disc there. But yeah, this is one that I didn't pick up initially when it came out. Excuse me, wet my whistle here. This one, it took me, I don't know, about a year or so before I picked it up because I didn't own a Blu-ray player for the longest time. I really did get into Blu-ray. I was one of those holdouts. I was like, I have so many DVDs, like, fuck it, I'll just stick with DVD. It's not a big deal. And then between Night and Day, or Between Night and Dawn came out, the box set from Arrow came out on Blu-ray, and I had to have that. I was just like, I have to have that. So that's what talked me in. So whenever that came out was probably around the time that I first bought this, when I first got this version. Now, this one does have a new high def transfer. It's different from the, it's different. It's a different version than the Arrow UK version, but it's also a different transfer than the Anchor Bay version. But it is a new high definition transfer, new documentary, World's End, The Legacy of Day of the Dead, which is a different documentary, which is still a very good documentary on Day of the Dead. The one negative is that I don't recall George was a part of this one. I may be wrong. But there's somebody missing. Pilato, I think, is the guy that because I think he passed away before this came out, but I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen this the documentary, The World's End, but I remember it being a very good. I actually saw the documentary before I saw this version because I think I'd found it online somewhere. It's got the audio commentary with George Romero, Savini, Cletus Anderson, Laura Cardell, the same audio commentary that we've always had. Behind the scenes footage, so it's pretty much a lot of the same bonus features. It's mainly just a new documentary, The World's End, and a new high-definition transfer. Now, they say a new high-definition transfer on this. From what I've heard, this version, they didn't go back to the original source material. Like a lot of the times when you do a new transfer of something, they'll go back to the original negative or the original source material to do that new transfer. This one they did not do. Listening to, it was on Planet CHH. If you guys checked out that channel, he was actually talking. He mentioned he was talking to the guy that was in charge of Scream Factory when this came out, and was asking about, Day of the Dead. Like, will there be a 4K of Day of the Dead at any point in time? And he actually mentioned that the elements that were missing, they didn't know where they were, and they did this high definition transfer on this thing was probably from like an inner positive or something like that. It wasn't the actual original negative. They weren't sure where it was at the time. But the look of this, it still looks fantastic. It looks great. This one's, I think it's out of print now, and it's kind of getting a little harder to find. So if you own this one, hang on to it. Honest to God, this may be the last version of Day of the Dead to come out on physical media, unless those original elements are found. Because if they put out 4K but they don't do a new transfer for it, it's like, what's the point? They're just going to up-res it to 4K. And then they're going to charge more for it. That's not the way to go about it. Day of the Dead. So here we'll give one last look at this sucker, the Scream Factory version, the latest version. Like I said, this came out September 17th, 2013. This also came, there's a DVD of this out as well. This also came out on DVD as well. But it kind of leads into the conversation of, will there be an updated 4K release, a 4K transfer of Day of the Dead in the near future? I haven't heard anything that it's in the works or anything. I don't know. I haven't heard. I have heard the rumors that the original elements, the sound elements, some of the sound elements were missing. The original negative had gone missing. Nobody really knew where it was. The owners of the rights, so Rubenstein doesn't own the rights to Day of the Dead anymore. He sold that off. It became Taurus Entertainment. over the years, and now it's the Doodlesons, I think, is the name of the people that own it now. I think it's still Taurus Entertainment, unless they changed it to something else. I feel like they changed the name to something else here recently, but anyway, Rubenstein doesn't own the rights anymore. The Taurus Entertainment owns it. They own Day of the Dead, Creep Show. Actually, I'm sorry. Rubenstein never owned the rights to it to begin with. It was actually Salahassnine and United Film Distribution. They sold the rights when, or they were bought out or something like that. They became Taurus Entertainment, and Taurus Entertainment owns the rights. But anyway, the original film elements for Day of the Dead have gone missing, and they haven't been found to this day. So the fact that this came out, what did I say, 2013? So we're talking 15, going on 15 years. Oh fucking hell, I'm retarded. 12 years, almost 12 years. I can't do math anymore. It's late. I'm sorry. It's been almost 12 years since we got a new release of Day of the Dead in the US, and it's due for a 4K. It definitely needs a 4K upgrade. I think it would benefit greatly for it, especially with the dark colors and the new OLED TVs and stuff, which are great for the blacks and stuff like that on your screen. I think it'd be perfect for a 4K release. But again, like, it just depends on if anybody's discovered these missing elements and the missing sound elements, and if they would do it from the ground up, going back to those original the original negative like that. That's the way to do it. That's the only way to do a 4K release of Day of the Dead, in my opinion. If you're just doing an up-res from the Blu-ray, like, what's the point? Like, why bother? Now, the company that would do it, I don't know if Scream Factory still has the rights to do a Day of the Dead release. If one were to come out, I would love to see like a Second Sight or somebody like that get a hold of Day of the Dead. Like, that would be, ideal for me. To do like one of those big, which they just, Second Sight just announced the Scanners and the Brood box sets, which look amazing. Which anything Second Sight does is incredible. Like, it's just insane. Like, they're so far ahead of most of the other labels right now that I would love to see them get a hold of Day of the Dead and do a new transfer and just a whole new box set, with all the goodies and the bells and whistles and whatnot, to kind of go with my Dawn of the Dead Second Sight box set. So yeah, will there be a Day of the Dead 4K anytime soon? Not that I know of. And like I said, hang on to this, because this may be the last version of this that ever gets released. I mean, physical media is kind of a niche thing now. It's we go from beta to VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, on and on and on. We're at a point now in society where most people don't buy physical media. They don't rent physical media. They don't care about physical media. There's a small group of people that will buy physical media and spend a lot of money on physical media, and that's kind of what's keeping this going. But you never know. I mean, we've seen it with Best Buy. Best Buy has stopped selling physical media in their stores. We've seen here recently where they're talking about, I forget who it was. Was it LG? Sony, one of the big manufacturing companies are stopping making. They're not making 4K or Blu-ray players anymore. Like, they're done. Like that. So physical media may always be around in some way. It'll be kind of like vinyl to me, I think. We're like, if hardcore fans, film fans will always want to own the films, but I think there's just a push, and everything's going to streaming. It's easier to manage, easier for the big studio, because everything's owned by 3 studios now. So they're just keep everything on streaming platforms, and a lot of these big studios don't really worry about physical media. They don't think of it anymore. That it's just like, we'll put it on DVD and put it out in Walmart, I guess. Now some companies are kind of getting on the bandwagon of doing like the steelbooks and stuff like that. And you see some more and more of those at Walmart. But again, steelbooks, like a steelbook release of a 4K of a movie that came out 40 years ago, has a very niche audience. Like, most people are not going. It's not what it used to be. Like, we mentioned Best Buy earlier. I forget who mentioned Best Buy earlier, but you go back to Best Buy back in the day, and it was just rows and rows and rows of shit, because that was the thing. I mean, at Best Buy, you go and you buy your new DVD player and hook it up to your new TV, and you're going to need movies to watch. So it's like now Best Buy doesn't even sell physical media because you're going to Best Buy, you're going to buy a new TV, and it's already connected. It's already hooked up to Roku or whatever, and you can get your Netflix and you can get your Amazon and whatever else on there. You don't need to buy a Blu-ray player or a 4K player, and let alone Blu-rays or 4Ks. But I do think a movie like Day of the Dead, there is an audience for it. It just comes down to if those, if the materials are there, if somebody finds those materials and are able to do a new transfer. Like I said, Second Sight would be my preferred label, I think, to do it. A Second Sight, or even Arrow. I mean, Arrow, like I said, I showed great release. Like this release from 2010 came out. Like I said, what year is this? 2025, 15 years ago. There you go. 15 years ago that this came out. So even Arrow, if Arrow got a hold of it and did a U.S. release, kind of like this, they won't do the window boxing or whatnot, but yeah, I mean, Arrow, Second Sight, hell, any of those I'd be happy with at this point. But yeah, Day definitely needs one. I honestly think we'll see a Dawn or a Martin release in the U.S. before we'll see a new Day release. Just my opinion. If anybody in the chat knows anything different than I do, let me know. But just from what I've been hearing from different sources and from different people, hang on to those Scream Factory Blu-rays. We'll just say that. And speaking of the chat, let me get back to you guys real quick here, and then we'll start to wrap this sucker up. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just kind of going back through time and looking at all the different releases of Day of the Dead that we've gotten over the years. Not nearly as many as we've gotten of Dawn, for sure, but I have some good memories with some of these. Takes me back just for a day, as CK would say. If we could go back just for a day, y'all. All right, where the hell was on the chat here? You're gonna send me a copy of that, Larry. Larry does have a DVD copy of that Day sci-fi version. Send me a copy of that. I'll pay for the shipping. I'd love to have that. Because I remember watching it when it was on Sci-Fi Channel. I'd be like, "Oh shit, Day of the Dead's on Sci-Fi Channel." Turn it on. It's just like, because I mean, Day of the Dead, every other word is like a curse word or something. So just the shit they were coming up with to replace those words was just like, where did they come up with this shit? It's fucking hilarious. Larry says, I provided all the still galleries on the Scream Factory release, and any stills used in the documentary came from me. I am credited. Oh, I did not know that. Very cool. So even more of a reason to get the Scream Factory version. Larry helped put again. I gotta go back and rewatch that World's End documentary. It's been a while. I watched the many days of Day of the Dead. I've seen that 1,000 times, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, I gotta go back and I've probably seen the World's End documentary 2 or 3 times, maybe at this point. But it's been a while. I'll have to go back and rewatch that. Holy Parish of Doom says Tubi has a VHS version a day. I don't know. Is it a VHS version a day, or does it just look so bad that it looks like a VHS version because it's Tubi? Tubi's not the best in terms of quality. Picture quality. I'll say that. Okay, so Pilato is in the doc. Who is missing from the doc? So there's somebody in the documentary that's missing. That was in the many days of Day of the Dead, like a big one. Was it George? Was George not in the World's End documentary? Was that the big? I may be wrong about that. But yeah, Pilato was in, because I think I'm thinking that backwards, because Pilato was in both. I don't know. I'm all mixed up. So yeah, you're right here. Releases 2013, the Pilato passed in 2019. So yeah, Pilato was in. Somebody was missed. Some big name was missing from the World's End documentary, if I'm remembering correctly. Rick says, does the original film print lend itself to 4K format? I mean, probably. I mean, they take, I mean, fucking hell, look at Vinegar Syndrome. They'll take the original film print for anything and put it to 4K. They'll take a video, something shot on fucking videotape and transfer it to 4K. Um, which there is. It's not from um, the original negative or anything, but on YouTube, I think Synth shared it to me. Yeah, I think it was Synth that shared it with me. Um, not too long ago. There's a 4K upres version of Day of the Dead. It actually looks pretty good. So I could imagine if they actually got in, like if you gave it to like Synapse or something like that. Synapse would be a perfect example. If you gave it to those guys to kind of go in and really restore the original negative for Day of the Dead, I think it would really do it a lot of good. Because I mean, it's gotten better over the years. I mean, you go back to the original VHS releases of Day of the Dead, it's so dark in parts in the cave, like you don't know what the hell you're looking at most of the time. Like I remember that was one of my big takeaways the first time I rented Day of the Dead was like it's so dark, like I can't see anything, like I don't get it. But as it's gotten better up to the Blu-ray releases and stuff, it looks a whole lot better. So I can just imagine what if they took the original negatives and did a 4K restoration on it, how much better that movie could look. Um, since Scanners is great. Yeah, Scanners is one of those movies I like. There are parts in it that I think are brilliant, but there's some parts that are just like it's a little draggy for me. The Brood is one I kind of like that too, but Cronenberg in general, there's some of those movies. It takes a while for it to grow on me the way that it should, I guess. I don't know. Like Videodrome was like the first time I saw Videodrome, I was like, I don't understand. Like there's a lot of cool stuff in it, but I didn't get it. But I watched it a few more times, and I was like, oh wow, this is genius. So that'd be awesome. Would love to see a Day of the Dead 4K. Yeah, I think we all would. Um, after Blockbuster store closes, physical media's days were numbered. Yeah. Well, I just think the internet. I just think streaming. When that became a thing, I think that made a lot of things. The internet has made a lot of things obsolete, and it's only going to get worse. And, but it is what it is. You gotta think physical media hasn't always been around. It's only been in our lifetimes. TV hasn't always been around. It's been a very short period of time for TV to be around. So it's just one of those things that's going to come. It's going to go. But probably by the time that I'm old and in a chair ready to say goodbye, like it'll be one of those things. Like I remember back in my day when we'd have to get up and put the disc in the thing, and we'd have to rewind the thing, and grandchildren would just be like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Grandpa. Like I don't know what you're talking about, man. Although I will say my daughter Everly loves my Blu-ray collection. She loves coming up here. She'll just look at it and just like pick something, and she's just looking at the back and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, cool. So maybe she'll carry it on. Maybe that's our job. Is just to pass it on to our children. Larry says there are even pictures of me in the location still gallery on the day Scream Factory release. I love it. There you go. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at this. It's been a while since I've looked at the Scream Factory. Usually, if I'm watching Day of the Dead um, on something, I'll pop in the Arrow version. Um, yeah, I'll have to go back and take a look at that. Yeah, LG was the company. LG stopped, among others. Yeah, LG's not doing 4K or Blu-ray players anymore. It's unfortunate. Um, yeah, plus no scratch. Yeah, that's a plus. But that's the charm. Come on, everybody loves wiping it off, trying it again. Now, I will admit that does piss me off. There was a moment here recently. I was watching, um, I don't know, it was about a week or so ago. Well, a couple weeks ago, I was watching Michael Mann's Thief. I bought that came out on Arrow. I think it was an overseas release. Um, but I bought the movie Thief, and I was halfway through it, and I was really, really into it, and then all of a sudden it just freezes. I'm like, what the fuck? And then it takes me back to the home page. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? So I take it out. I'm cleaning it, wiping it off. I'm like, it looks fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Not a scratch, nothing. Put it back, and it will not play. It will not play past the halfway point. So I was fucking mad. At that point, I was like, fuck physical media. I'm streaming only from now on, damn it. But yeah. I still haven't watched the end of Thief, and I'm pretty annoyed by that because I was loving the first half of it for sure. Um, Larry saying props to Michael Felcher for asking me to help out on the extras for the release. Very very cool. Um, yeah, Felcher did a lot of the extra. Like I mentioned when I was talking about the upcoming Night 90 4K that's apparently coming out from Sony. I've heard Felcher's doing the bonus features on that, so I'm looking forward to that. Anything Romero related that Michael Felcher works on, I mean that's to me that's top notch. That doesn't get any better than that because Felcher, if anybody's going to do do what we want as fans in terms from the bonus features, like what we're looking for in a bonus feature of a Romero film, like Felcher knows. Like Felcher is the guy um, that knows what questions to ask and all that. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, but yeah, so there you go. Check that out. Scream Factory release starring the 50-year-old man himself, Lawrence Dobinson. Since I rip all my media since players will disappear and computers will last. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong for that. Not wrong. Not wrong for that. But I just love the collecting aspect of it. I don't know why. That's really the one thing I spend most of my like. I don't buy a whole lot. I don't buy a whole lot of clothes. I'm not a big guy that buys a lot of clothes or anything like that. But physical media is one of those things I just love to go and look. Like it's just comforting to me just to go to a store like Mega Replay where they just have just tons and tons of shit. I just like to look. Every now and then I'll come across like a hidden treasure or something. It's like, oh God, I've been looking for that. I want to own that. I love the idea of just owning it. Just I can have it anytime, and I don't have to worry about it being, taken off the platform or whatever the hell else. Uh, Slippy, Suki Suki now. Brian said half price books is a treasure trove for us physical movie heads. Yeah, yeah. I went to my first half price books when I was in Pittsburgh back in June. I'd never been to one, and Will was telling me we got to go to half price books, and yeah, there's all kinds of awesome shit in there. Which we don't have one of those around here. We have a Mega Replay. There's quite a few stores, but Mega Replay is kind of the big one around here. It's a lot of used Blu-rays, 4K stuff like that. Rick's saying exactly the last time I went into Best Buy, there was just one aisle of 2 racks of discs or music for sale. Yeah, last time I was in a Best Buy, there was nothing. They had gotten rid of everything. There was nothing left. They were not selling music, movies, nothing. Yeah, which is kind of sucks. Slippy is the man. I agree with that. Downs Up says, I agree. I just have that on my head. Yep. Thanks, Dead Pit. Yep. Is it Slippy or is he 2 scoops now? 2 scoops. Yeah, the day up res on YouTube, it does look pretty good. But I will say the 35 millimeter, the open matte version that's on YouTube, that looks fucking beautiful. I would love to just have that on a 4K. Just take the open matte version that's on YouTube, put it on a 4K. Fuck it. Scanners was a great drive-in movie when you were a kid. Yeah, I'm sure at that time seeing that the head exploding scene was just kind of like fuck people. I'm sure people left after seeing that back in the day. Matt's not a fan of the main character from Scanners. He seemed a little wooden to me. Love that movie though. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of I forget the name of the actor, but Michael Ironside's awesome in it. One of my favorite scenes in that movie is when they're showing the footage of him and he's got the hole in his head and he's got the bandage over it. Like, I just love that image of Michael Ironside with the bandage over. It's like supposed to be like his third eye or whatever. Love Ironside in that. Larry says Scream Factory has a VHS rip of Day on their Scream TV website /channel, and they provide lots of their stuff to Tubi. Okay, there you go. I'm sure that's the thing Holy's talking about. Very cool. Since this video drum is very prescient, Marshall McLuhan character called Brian Oblivion. Yeah, I'm a huge video drum fan. That may be that or Shivers. It's probably up there as my favorite Cronenberg film. I don't think Jarlath Conroy was in World's End, but I could be mistaken. Not sure if that's the big name you're thinking of. No, I don't think it was Jarlath. It was somebody else. God, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that again now because I can't think of who it is. But I remember that sticking out when I saw World's End. I was like, oh, so and so's missing. It mainly worked in the end where he still seemed weak, but overcame Revit, had an art. Yeah, the ending of Scanners is fantastic. Larry, yeah. So yeah, was Jarlath in many days? I gotta go back. It's been so long since I've seen those. Thief is great. Yeah, I was loving it until it fucking stopped playing. I was so damn mad. I was like, God damn it. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I got the DivX version of Thief. That's what it was. It gets halfway through and then it just cuts off. Thief, great film. James Caan, great actresses. Down is Up. Soundtrack by Tangerine Dream. Yes, sir. Since Santa still got CDs for sale, or CDs for goodness sake. Old habits die hard, but they sound good. They do. CDs still sound pretty good. I mean, I if I buy music, it's usually vinyl, but like you can't argue with, especially like if you're in a car or something, which a lot of cars don't even have CD players anymore. I can't even say that anymore. A lot of things don't even fucking play CDs anymore, man. It's fucking crazy. And that goes to show. Even music, as physical media for music has fallen by the wayside for streaming, which I can't say that I'm not guilty of. Like, I listen to Spotify most of the time. Thief is a mix of Tangerine Dream's albums, a lot like a lot of their soundtracks. There you go. Dick Smith, the effects mentor, did the Scanner's Exploding Head. Yeah, I think I remember hearing that. Synth. Larry says that Day 35mm open matte version is from a 5K scan. Well, maybe that's why it looks so damn good. Both Slippy and Two Scoops. There you go. Yeah, I saw Felcher at Horror Hound back in March, and the Dead Pit guys were there. I was there actually. The first time I was meeting Uncle Bill and CK, and they were talking to Felcher. I walked up and I was talking to Felcher. I was like, "Hey, what's up? Are these guys bothering you?" And he's like, "Yeah, can you get them out of here?" And I was like, "Well, I hate to do this to you, but I unbuttoned my shirt and I had my Dead Pit shirt underneath." And I was like, sorry, buddy, I'm with him." And he's like, "Oh God, another one of you fuckers." But now Slippy's cool. I love talking to Felcher. Like me and Felcher and Blasey showed up. Matt Blasey walked up. He was at Horror Hound, and we all just kind of talked and hung out for a little bit there. Kind of got some I got some inside scoops on some things, but I don't really. But other than that, that's interesting. I play most of the music on USB sticks in your car. Never tried that. But yeah. So there you have it, folks. Day of the Dead. It's the most recent. Go out and get it. Contributions from the man himself, Mr. Lawrence Vincent. So even more incentive to go out and pick this up if you don't already own it from Scream Factory. And like I said, I don't know. Maybe the last version of Day of the Dead we get on physical media. Who's to say? Who's to say? Who knows? But yeah, I think that will be about it for me tonight. I appreciate it, guys. I'll see you guys next weekend with something else. I'm not sure, but I'll be back with something. Like I said, I've been testing out some different editing techniques and some different stuff on the channel. So I'll be probably dropping some more videos and stuff on the channel throughout the week. Go check those out. Appreciate it. And I don't know. Like I said, next week I'll be back with something different. We'll figure it out. But till then, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're watching for the first time. If you're new, make sure you hit that sub button. I would very much appreciate it. And notifications bell, that seems to be a fun thing. I don't know. Hit that. Hit that, and you'll be notified every time that I post something on the channel. So appreciate that as well. What else am I missing? Oh, shop.alfaromero.store. Got some t-shirt designs. I got a few others coming out here soon. I'm working on. Go check that out. Just some Romero designs that I think are kind of cool. For the Romero fan in the know, I guess. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I got, guys. Down is up. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for another great stream. Hope everyone has a great week. Absolutely, sir. Since then, I'll be on the Subjective Perspective Collective to talk about Demons 1 and 2 and the Church on Sunday, January 26th. Lots of Simon Eddy music. There you go, guys. Don't miss that. I was actually on the Subjective Perspective Collective show. I cannot say that fucking title to save my life. I don't know, about a month or so ago, we were talking about Zombie 3, 28 Days Later, and Living Dead at Manchester Morgue with Dirk and Darren, those guys over there. Really, really fun conversation, really fun time with them. So I hope you enjoy that, synth. So we'll all be watching. Check that out on the Subjective Perspective Collective channel. Synth will be on there January 26th, Sunday, talking about Demons 1 and 2 and the Church. All movies that I'm a fan of. So I'll definitely be watching Synth for sure. But good to see you as always, my man. Matt, thanks for covering day tonight. That was a fun one. No worries, man. Like I said, I really enjoyed doing these history of home video streams. So I might try to do one of these every year. If I do the history of Night of the Living Dead, we will be here for hours and hours and hours, because there's no way to fucking cover every release of Night of the Living Dead. I probably don't even know of all the releases. Like, there's a book out there that has every release of Night of the Living Dead. I think it's the complete collector's guide so maybe I'll buy that and we'll just read through that. Maybe that'll be next year's history lesson. But thanks for hanging out tonight, man. I always appreciate it. Larry, thanks for coming in. Happy birthday, my man. Hope you have a good one, sir. Good night, Bonnie. Always good to see you, Bonnie. I hope you got your record in the mail. I sent that a while back. I hope everything got to you. I know the weather's been kind of shitty, so some stuff's been delayed. I've ordered a lot of stuff like weeks ago that I still haven't gotten in the mail. So I think with the holidays and all the weather and stuff, hoping everything gets to everybody in a timely fashion and in one piece. So, but hope you have a good night. Thank you for hanging out. And the final one here from Mr. John Billow. Adios, John. Always good to see you, sir. But thanks again, everybody. I will see you guys next weekend. But until then, as always, have a great night, a great rest of the week. And no matter what, hold on, let me get the video pulled up here. I'm fucking off. Hang on. Where are we at? I can't find the video. Let's try this again. Everybody have a great rest of the night, great rest of the week. And as always, stay scared.